Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Formula X Racing Premier X season opener here live from Shanghai, China for round 1 of 12. I'm Yousuf Milky Cereal, and alongside me is Jacob Hancox. Now, while I'm a still image, don't worry, Jacob will be bringing all of the moving images, and we'll be having plenty more moving, well, not images, but moving cars out on a track momentarily. But first, before we get into all of the nitty-gritty, it's been a few weeks, and I'm sure you're all dying to remember what happened last time we were out racing in round 12 of our season 1 opening season at the Yas Marina circuit. Here, take a quick recap.
Lights coming on. Do not see the lights, but the drivers will. And at some point, they are going to go out here in Abu Dhabi. Very long hold indeed, but we are underway, and it looks like a good start off the line from Weeze, but maybe with a little bit too much oversteer. A2 UK has rocketed off the line in the McLaren, but it's going to be Dougie Falcons into turn 1 ahead. Weeze tentative through the first corner there, and now might find himself under pressure. He's ghosting. I don't know what's happening to our pole sitter. He's lagged out. That's a disaster for the Renault, and Dougie Falcons up in a P1, making it work on that set of soft tyres. A2 UK holding off Ruben, who's had a good start as well, up into P4 in the Red Bull. A2 UK had a great launch off the line, but wasn't able to challenge Dougie Falcons, who will cement his grip on P1 for the time being and should look to gap the rest of the field on that set of soft tyres. Further back, it looks like Connor Sheridan's had a good start up to P11. Sudek and Weeze battling as Sudek's had a great start up to P7. Looking to challenge Mahavir as well into turn 8. There's so many battles, and wow, that is very late from the Irishman, but he gets it done. Unbelievable move, but there is some front wing going. I think that was Renault, and there's a huge pile up here.
That's going to be one for you to analyze after the race, Jacob. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but that is the safety car out, and this is going to hurt Dougie Falcons a lot in this lap. I think it is. And we will be back racing, Jacob. And Dougie pushes for the side. He's already got a little bit of a gap over A2 UK as Elon Tusk getting pretty close to. It's Ruben. It's Ruben who's dropped down the order. He's all the way down in P15, so Ruben's had an incident through the triple right-hander.
Mavericks actually just got back into the session. Connor Sheridan and Sudek battling.
Oh, A2 UK is really close to Dougie as that's Sudek who's had a moment. 3 abreast almost, as that's going to be Luffy going down the inside into the chicane. A2 UK still down in P2. Maverick trying to reconnect as a check-in side by side with the Luffy. That was super close, and Luffy not quite able to make the move on the racing point.
Yeah, I was about to say Sudek and Connor Sheridan battling over P6. Usually you'd be expecting them to be battling over P16. But this time, unfortunately, it didn't end up very well for Sudek.
The UK will be on fresher tyres and potentially the softer compound as well. As Lowenka, I think he had a bit of a lag kicking in. AJ will get past up into P11.
Yeah, no wonder Weeze is going so fast. He set a 2-second.6 lap, and now he's looking to get up into second position as well. As he makes his way past Elon Tusk comfortably before the braking zone, actually outbrakes himself a little bit. The moment though he will have to pit again as A2 UK does throw in the towel and elects to go into the pits to get rid of that set of medium tires. The Renault, and it was just a moment ago that Weeze was chasing down the race leader. Now he's the race leader and he's getting hunted himself. He decides he doesn't want to be easy meat and heads into the pit lane. And that's a safety car, a full-blown safety car that pulled out. That is great news for Dougie. He's getting his half-price pit stop.
Yeah, Dougie is in an absolutely fantastic position. And I actually think A2 UK and Weeze Racing, they just need to take the hit, especially A2. He just needs to come in the pits, put on a new set of soft tyres, and just go to the end.
Down the order at the moment. Connor Sheridan came into the pits as well.
Elon just got a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car.
Oh no, Elon. That's soft to the tyres to be on to the end of this race here. Luffy is going to do the opposite. He's not going to be a sheep. He is going to stay out, and it's a Mercedes 1-2, and he's only on 4-lap old mediums. Those can comfortably make it to the end of this race. Can Dougie get the jump? Will he drag Luffy along with him, or will it be every man for himself here?
and we really want to watch A2 UK because he's on the fresh soft tyres, hunting down the medium tyre runners as Chegwin has a bit of a moment with the rear end. Mahavir picks up a 5-second time penalty, but our eyes are on the lead as Luffy runs wide, and Chegwin is going to get a great run down the inside into turn 2. Luffy is struggling, and now he's going to be in just a fish food for A2 UK. Wow. Weez Racing, where was that from? Weez up into P4, absolutely fantastic stuff from the Renault driver.
I think Weez was maybe diving up the inside of Lappy into the hairpin as well. Yeah, you can see just sticking his nose in there, compromising the exit for Lappy in P3, who had such a poor restart or through turn 1, just messing up on his own. No chance for Dougie to drag him along now as it's Cheggin Little up into P2. A2 UK trying to fight back on Weez, who disrespected him through the opening sector of the lap. And A2 UK, in doing so, picks up a 3-second time penalty by cutting turn 8. And he's actually kept himself alongside Lappy, who spins out and into the wall. So the Mercedes driver, it goes bad to worse this lap, lap 20. Not his favorite lap of this race, and he's going to fall to the very back of the order. And that, I guess, gives a little bit of solace to the likes of Elon Tusk, who still has yet to serve his drive-through penalty. Meanwhile, A2 UK still trying to fend off Weez Racing, but all this battling is helping out Chegwin, who's comfortably in P2 at the moment with over a second gap. There's now Weez up the inside again. That is not an overtaking spot, but he's trying to make it one. A2 UK holding on to the position for now as they come round to complete lap 20 of this race, and this, I think, has been my favorite lap of this race thus far. Speaking of that, with AJ going past his teammate, Ken is not able to fight back as the Williams will make his way up into P6 for now. Chegwin now. A2 UK will be all over the back of him. Oh no! Elon, he's been disqualified for not taking his drive-through penalty in time. That is incredible. As A2 UK is all over the back of Lord Chegwin. In towards turn 8 they go. Chegwin will battle around the outside. He's got his car alongside enough to justify some room, and he holds on for now. A2 UK compromised by the racing point through turn 9, and Weez will be getting interested in the Renault behind as well. Look at the run he's getting. He's reeling him in. There's no space on the left. Go to the right instead. It's 3 wide into turn 11, and it's Weez Racing that takes them both. Chegwin down to 4th. But Weez with the move of the day and up into P2, and now he can look to close down Dougie up in the lead as well.
But it was the Mercedes of Luffy who lost the lead as Owen laid on the brakes. AJ's going to be able to get a fantastic run out of the chicane, but Owen still has DRS and crucially slipstream as well from Chegin. We've seen 3 abreast before, Jacob. Will we get it again? Owen closing in on Chegin. Chegin goes defensive. AJ's going to have to slot behind. Round the outside goes the Alpha Tauri. And that's Owen up into P4.
And that gap is just getting smaller. Weez, if he can keep it clean, and if you're right about him having it, oh no! There's Chegwin into the wall, and he's lost it. He's lost it completely. He's going to DNF from the race as well. So Chegwin will not be rising any higher than P8, and it's a safety car again.
Now, Ruben, if he doesn't come into the pits, he's inting. Yes.
Oh, well, that's... I mean, he's come into the pits, and he's still inting. That is... Oh, dear. Yeah. Oh, Ruben, mate. Oh, Reed, you got to come away. This is... I don't want to watch this.
It didn't disqualify him. You can get disqualified for blocking the pit entry.
Here we go.
Oh, okay, that can get removed as well. However, here we go. Safety car restart, Jacob.
Yeah, that might just be a genuine corner cut from Owen. He might have thrown it all away. He had the opportunity to take his maiden win, and he might have...
Kenneth is going down the inside of AJ into turn 1.
Yeah, they're going side by side. He's going to push AJ wide. The Williams driver won't be too happy with that. Welcome to Premier X, says Kenneth, as AJ gets shuffled down to Peace, who has looked like maybe the fastest guy here today, but Weez has been matching him every step of the way. These 2 new boys to the league, and he's not close enough. There's no DRS, as you mentioned, and that might mean that Dougie Falcons can take home the win.
Look how close Weez is. Final lap of the race. My editing job's going to be easy. I don't need to cut anything out. Just upload the whole race. The final few corners now, Jacob.
Oh, he's bumping him through the final couple of corners. He's pushed him wide. And that will mean that the opportunity is there for Weez. Dougie cuts across the track, but he can't hold on to the position. And Weez is up in a P1 now. And just like he stole pole position away at the very depths of qualifying, he's stolen the win away at the very end of the race. Weez up towards the line. A bit of a quirk there for style, but across the line he comes and he takes it. A2 UK coming home in second. Owen in third as Dougie had an extra penalty and falls down to fourth. Connor Sheridan with his best result of the season in P5. Ruben manages sixth. Kenner's falling down due to penalties. Same for AJ down in P8. Luffy will be disappointed with P9. And Lernkert is 50 seconds behind, so I'm not going to keep shouting until he comes across the line. But wow.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, a rather crazy end to the Yas Marina race and, of course, to our Season 1 finale. And I don't think, really, Jacob, we could have wanted the season to end in any different way. It kind of culminated, really, how the entire season had gone. And it was great to see a few fresh faces in that final race performing so well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a little sneak preview of quite a few of the drivers we have in this new season, Season 2 as well, and got a little bit of an idea of where they stack up relative to each other, but we have only seen the majority of them at maybe one or two circuits. But yeah, as you mentioned, that race in Abu Dhabi was an absolute classic, and it's not often you can say that about a race at Abu Dhabi, actually. Not usually a track that people associate with great racing, but that time around, that was a real banger.
Well, I feel like Season 1 it threw a big curveball because there were so many races that were like that. And I think the biggest one was Monaco, where it was in the wet, and it was one of the best races of the season. And Season 1 just happened to do that, breaking our expectations in so many different ways.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, Monaco and Abu Dhabi being potentially the two best races of the season, definitely not the sort of thing you would expect. That's for sure.
Now, speaking of tracks like Monaco and Abu Dhabi, as we make our way into Season 2, there's a whole load of things that have been changed. Some things have been kept slightly similar. So, myself and Jacob, we will be running you through all of the major points for Season 2 of Premier X that are especially noteworthy and something that you, our viewers, should keep in consideration. So the first thing we want to discuss is the track list and all of the circuits that we will be visiting over the course of the season. And of course, we're kicking things off here tonight at Shanghai, China. Jacob, this is a circuit that has seen titles decided in the past, but what do we think of it being our season opener?
Well, I'm a big fan of this circuit, actually, more so to watch than to drive, but I think usually it provides really good racing in general. It's got one of the longest straights on the calendar, and that always is great fun to see the cars going side by side into the hairpin at the very end of it, trying desperately to keep going side by side through there. And then, you know, that's not the only overtaking spot either. Theoretically, you can overtake into turn 10, you can overtake into turn 6 as well. So I'm a big fan of it as a track in general. And I, for one, really like it as a season opener. I definitely like it more than Australia, the real life season opener, because that track's tough to pass at, let me tell you.
Yeah, it is very tough to pass at Australia. Australia will not be featuring in the Season 2 Premier X calendar list. Instead, we're going to be making our way to Azerbaijan for round 2. We'll then be following that up with Paul Ricard, and then a trip over to the UK for Silverstone, followed by the Hungaroring. And then we make our way to the Temple of Speed, Monza, before having a complete switch in pace as we make our way to the street circuits of Singapore. And then we complete the season with Russia, Japan, Mexico, and then the season finale at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Canada. And maybe the Wall of Champions might crown a new champion.
Well, we certainly saw a lot of people in a lot of different walls in the last season's race at Canada, that's for sure. Although there was a certain driver who will remain nameless who was definitely helping some of the competitors into the wall, shall we say. Definitely going to be hoping for a bit of a cleaner race this time around, but that race was certainly dramatic and it was entertaining, if nothing else. So I've got high hopes for Circuit Gilles Villeneuve as our season finale, definitely. And also, it was interesting you mentioned about going straight from Monza to Singapore. Just a little tidbit there. I think Monza will be the shortest race in terms of race time on the whole calendar. And I think Singapore will be the longest. So it's going to be a real sort of change of pace there between those two, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think Italy is the shortest track on the calendar. I'm just trying to think what could be shorter. Maybe Canada? I don't know. I think it's quite close.
It's got to be between Monza and Austria. And I think in terms of average race time, for the whole race, I think it is Monza that's the shortest.
But yeah, going from Italy to Singapore. So 12 races, just like in Season 1. out of out of the 12 tracks that we have for season 2, what's the icing on the cake for you, Jacob?
Icing on the cake. Oof. Well,
Yes.
there's a lot of tracks I like here. Sadly, one of my favorites isn't here, but a lot of my other favorites are. One of my favorites being, or perhaps my absolute favorite being Bahrain, not here, unfortunately. But I really am excited to see what people can do at COTA, Circuit of the Americas. That's going to be an interesting one for sure. We don't often get to see, or I've not really seen anyone racing on F1 2020 at Circuit of the Americas yet, any league races there whatsoever. So I'm going to be very much looking forward to seeing what sort of racing that one throws up. And it's another really good track for racing. And I just always love the spectacle of Monza as well, really.
I think for me, I'm a massive fan of Hungary. I think it's one of my favorite circuits, but in terms of watching racing, I think it might probably have to be Monza or probably Silverstone. As a Brit myself, there's always something great about seeing Silverstone on the track list. I'm not going to lie, I'm still a little bit disappointed, Jacob, that we don't have Spa on the track. We won't be visiting Belgium this season round.
Yeah, for sure. That's another one of my favorites. And I'm not perhaps quite as vociferously unhappy as you are that that's not on the calendar. There's been some discussion about this behind the scenes. But yeah, I like Spa, and it always is nice, and it always gives a good chance of a wet race as well. Sadly, not going to be on the calendar, but we've got plenty of great tracks to make up for that.
Yeah, that is very well the case. And something else that might be adding a little bit of spice along with the circuits themselves is, of course, the weather, because sometimes it can rain, sometimes it's dry, sometimes it can snow. Well, not in the F1 games, but maybe that's a feature that is on the way. And heading into season 2 of FXR as a whole, we have a brand new weather system coming in as we want to make racing as lifelike as possible and practicing for races as lifelike as possible. So whereas in season 1, the admins would release the weather a week before the event, right after the previous round had completed. This time the weather is based off real life weather and is announced only a few hours before the race. Well, actually, within the hour, and actually announced in driver's briefing, Jacob.
Yeah, and I think that's really nice, because I think the one big difference between watching F1 as an esport and seeing F1 in real life is the amount of practice you can have on F1 2020 as a game. The drivers can absolutely perfect the tracks. And I think giving this little curveball of not knowing what the weather is going to be means that if we do get damp conditions or wet conditions, they're less likely to be firmly practiced in those conditions. And, that can definitely throw the cat among the pigeons for sure.
Yes, the drivers have had, since the weather system was released, which was a week ago, to have a look at the weather forecast. And what they would have seen is that it was raining and then it was dry, and then it was raining and then it was dry. So it's pretty much exactly what we wanted, Jacob, in the sense that the drivers have no real idea of knowing what was to be coming until pretty much it happened, which wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, indeed, exactly. And we've already seen a little bit of weather variation earlier on the week. We'll talk about that in a bit more. But yeah, I really like it. I think it's a really nice change. I think it's also a really nice link just to be able to know that we're basing it on the real life weather in the track at the tracks that we're racing at. I think that's just a really nice connection there,
We will be announcing what the weather will be for tonight's race a little bit later on. So if you want to know whether the rain might dampen things up a bit or maybe spice things up, make sure to stay tuned, as we'll be announcing that about 10 minutes before the start of qualifying. Another new system that has been introduced for season 2 is the draft selection for teams. And we saw in season 1, Jacob, that Williams kind of ran away with the championship a bit. Iceman and Sipos-Benz, they were just completely dominant, completely unstoppable.
Yeah, it was the Williams show, really. They wrapped up the constructors' standings well before the final race, well before the final race, in all honesty. There were some nice fights further down the order in the constructors. I seem to remember Ferrari, Red Bull being involved, but Williams really were a cut above, and that's something we're hoping to try and avoid this season.
And in order to stop this from happening, we have decided to go to a draft team selection. So the way it works is, Jacob and I, we had a little bit of, it was almost a 2-hour-long podcast where we power ranked all of the drivers from 1 all the way down to 20. It's been about a week, I think, since we made these rankings. Do we still agree with how we have ranked these drivers?
Well, I mean, I still broadly agree with how we've ranked these drivers. I notice some drivers don't agree with how we've ranked these drivers. Some people think that, in particular, the likes of Luca and Ruben have been underrated. A lot of people of that sort of opinion. However, given the amount of talk there was about us underrating Ruben down there in 15th, he wasn't necessarily in the highest demand, as we'll find out in a moment.
No, and I mean, I do agree with your sentiment that, broadly speaking, I think these power rankings are accurate. I do still disagree with you, Jacob. I think our current champion, Iceman, he's too high up. I think Iceman needs to go down to about P9. Maybe I'll be proved wrong after this opening race here at Shanghai. I also have a lot of faith in Simons, and probably something else we should bring up, because when we first did these power rankings, Paris Burrell and Racebug, they were not in these rankings because it was Mags and Matty, and they have had to drop out. We've had 2 reserves jump in, and I think as soon as we knew Paris Burrell would be racing, we knew, okay, he's going to be right up there, but we weren't sure, is he first, or will he be dropping down maybe behind Ulas, behind Calcifer?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a little bit tentative that we put him right at the very top, but this guy is a proven talent. He's in AOR Split 1 and doing very well therein. He's clearly a very, very fast driver indeed, and I think he merits that top spot. So it's a bit odd to see after we did all that time doing the power rankings to then suddenly have the top spot supplanted by Paris Burrell, who we weren't even considering as he was only a reserve at that time. But honestly, I think there's no other place for him.
Yeah, and I do think Paris does deserve to be at the top. I've seen some of his races, and he looks absolutely phenomenal. And I'm so excited to see him battling against the likes of Ulas, Calcifer, and Valu in what I do think will be a 4-way fight pretty much throughout the entire season. And I'm really hoping that the likes of Rainbow and maybe Dougie and Iceman could join that battle as the season progresses. What about Racebug, though? Because Racebug came in, and I feel that, I know I myself, I was very quick to say, okay, Racebug, I know he's going to be somewhere down towards that bottom end, but do we think he belongs down in P19, or do you think, we might have underrated him slightly?
Well, it's really hard for me to say at the moment. I don't know a huge amount about Racebug myself. I'm hoping to learn a lot throughout the course of the season, and indeed over the course of today. And I think the real thing is, if Racebug does feel like we've underrated him, go out there and prove it. Show us why you are not the 19th best driver in the field. Show us why you should have been higher up that standing. And it's entirely possible that a lot of these standings are going to be wrong. This is quite a rough power ranking for sure. Think of it like a seeding going into a tournament, right? It's never the actual outcome of the tournament is in seeding order. It just never happens. So I would expect that this will not be drivers' standings at the very end of the season.
I'll have you know, Jacob, when Leicester won the Premier League, they were seeded as the best. Okay, no, never mind. They weren't. However, this is not a gimmick in itself. It does play a part ever so slightly, maybe like 0.5% into how the season will pan out, because it does affect the constructors. As we mentioned, this is a draft system. And what this meant is that the top 10 drivers, I should say, got to pick their teammate in reverse order. So 10th place picked their teammate, followed by 9th place, then 8th place. Once all of the teams were selected, it was then the bottom 10 drivers, starting from 20th, working their way up to 11th, who were able to pick their cars, and they were able to, let's say, collude with their teammates to determine what cars they wanted to select. And over the course of the previous week, Jacob had a quick check on what the team compositions, let's say, would be looking like heading into Season 2 of Premier X. Take a look.
Hey everybody, Jacob here, and I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of who chose whom and for which teams they will be driving in this coming season, Season 2 of Premier X. So, the driver with the first pick based on the seedings was AJ, who we saw last season in Abu Dhabi, and AJ, rather unsurprisingly, picked A2 UK to be his teammate, and they are going to be driving in the Alfa Romeo. Now, AJ actually gave a little quote for us to read out and exactly why he picked A2 UK. He said, "The reason I picked A2 UK as my teammate is because I've been racing with A2 for the past few months, and I think he's a brilliant driver and a nice guy. I think we can work well together as a team and look forward to seeing what we can do together." Next up was Luppy with the second choice, and Luppy made the interesting choice of actually selecting Cheggers to join himself in the Racing Points team. Now, Cheggers was actually seeded quite low, but being in this team with Luppy does mean that he will be representing Racing Point for the second season in a row. And Luppy did also give a little quote, just like AJ, about Cheggers. Luppy said, "Cheggers is a clean and fair driver with good pace. I know him from before FXR, since we used to do some online races together from time to time. Also, he is the one who invited me to join FXR. I enjoy racing with him, so I'm looking forward to becoming teammates this season." Third up on the list was Wheeze, having been seeded 8th in the standings. And Wheeze made the choice of plumping for one of the hotshots from last season's Division 1 in the form of Max, and they will be making an all-German pairing in the Renault team. Fourth pick went to Dougie Falcons, who was seeded in 7th when all things were told. And Dougie went for Simoms, who's a bit of an unknown in terms of just how fast Simoms can be, but a lot of people think that we might have underrated him a little bit in the power ranking, so it makes sense for Dougie to take a bit of a risk on Simoms, and they are going to be driving for Ferrari. The next choice went to our reigning champion Iceman, and the Macedonian unsurprisingly picked his Side Max Motorworks teammate Luca to be his FXR teammate as well, and they will be participating on behalf of Haas. And Iceman also gave us a little couple of quotes, couple of sentences here for me to read out about why he chose Luca. He said, "I chose Luca because we are good friends. We wanted to be teammates before the draft idea was announced, and I was surprised he was available when it was my turn to pick. I think he is the most underrated driver, and that even after the first race, people will regret passing up on him." So strong words there from Iceman, condemning the rest of the drivers for not picking up Luca sooner. Next up is one of the newcomers to the league, and definitely one of the ones we're expecting to run up at the front, and that is Rainbow. The Lithuanian went for Ruben to make it a double R team, driving, unfortunately, not for Red Bull, but for Mercedes. Next up was another newcomer, Valu, who elected to go for Maverick, who, of course, one of our race winners from last season, and they will be driving together in the AlphaTauri team. Down now to the third seeded driver and the 8th choice for teammate. It was Calcifer who got the option, and the Estonian decided to pick up Racebug, who got added to the power rankings a little bit late because of a couple of drivers leaving after the power rankings. So Racebug, a bit of an unknown quantity, but Calcifer elected to go with the newcomer, and they will be together in the Williams team. Next up is the driver that on the day we rated as the number 1 driver, but since then has been shuffled down to 2nd in the power rankings, and that is Ulash. The Turkish driver elected to select Kenners to be their teammate of the 2 remaining choices, and they will be participating on behalf of Red Bull. And then finally, the number 1 seeded driver in the whole of Premier X, Paris Burel, had the final choice, and unfortunately for him, it wasn't really a choice at all. He just simply had to make do with Elon Tusk, but I'm sure he won't be too unhappy about that. Elon was doing pretty well in the standings for the vast majority of the last season of Premier X, and definitely not a poor choice by any means, and they will be together in the McLaren team. So that about rounds it up now for the whole of the lineup. You can see who is whose teammate and who they are driving for, and you can let us know in chat right now who you reckon is going to be the team to watch.
Well, thank you, Jacob, for making that video for us, but I want to know your thoughts. I want you to look at these teams and tell me, well, I mean, maybe you can analyze it, or maybe you can just go with your heart and tell me what you feel, which of these teams feel like they could be the power team? Which team feels like they could be the next Season 1 Williams?
Well, you might not like my answer because it involves one of the members of Season 1's Williams. I think the Haas team, the Haas lineup, Iceman and Luca, I think that's a really, really strong lineup. I think it's It's very surprising that Iceman managed to get to the point where Luca could be picked as his teammate, considering he was not first pick and Luca was, I think, seeded 11th in the power rankings. But if you look at the combined seeding numbers of the two, of all of these teams, Haas have the lowest. And as we've already established, those power rankings, those seedings are absolutely pitch perfect. There's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. So we can therefore tell you with 100% certainty that Haas will win the championship this season. You heard it here first.
See, the thing is, I understand where you're going with this, Jacob, and I understand that you're saying, Iceman and Luca, if you combine the numbers, if you do the maths, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't a science. Well, it is a science. This is 100% science and 100% factually accurate. But when I look at the power rankings, okay, and I look, okay, Jacob, we did such a fantastic job at doing these power rankings, but if there were any two drivers that I thought were out of place and were overrated, for me, it's Iceman and Luca, which is why I don't think Haas is as strong as it mathematically should be. So for me, I think Value and Maverick, or Calcifer and Racebug, so I think AlphaTauri or Williams, I think they have a very, very good team combination here.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely see that, especially with the AlphaTauri boys. I think Value and Maverick is a very, very strong lineup, and that's definitely one of the ones I'd expect him to be right up there. It does depend a little bit on to what extent Maverick can continue to sort of challenge the likes of Iceman, as he did occasionally last season. Whether Maverick will be a casualty of the strength of field or not, I think he can make it up to really start fighting for decent points in these races, even with the field being as strong as it is. But we'll have to wait and see whether that plays out. And then with Williams, yeah, it's a big question mark, of course, because we still don't really know exactly what to expect from Racebug here. So if Racebug is significantly better than what we have expected very tentatively with those power rankings, then Williams will be in a strong spot as well, that's for sure.
I've seen Racebug race in a couple of other leagues, and I know... See, for me, I rate Racebug as being a fair bit quicker than me. Not a lot, but quicker than me. And I personally, I like to think that I'm as quick as like Elon Tusk and Cheggers. So for that reason, I'm kind of seeing Racebug as being this guy that could be bridging the gap from, Cheggers all the way up to Ruben and Maverick. But I'm in the same kind of situation as you here, Jacob, because while I've seen Racebug race, with pretty much all of the other drivers, I've seen them race against each other, but I've never seen Racebug race against any of these other drivers. So I've kind of seen his face, but I don't know where it fits in.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm very much looking forward to finding out. But that is why I think Williams is an interesting wild card here. There's a couple of other interesting ones that I would like to quickly shout out here as well. I think the Alfa Romeo lineup, AJ and A2 UK. I think AJ had first pick and picked A2 UK. I think they get on with each other well. And they're both drivers we're expecting to be around the sort of really the very midfield, right? And if they can consistently get results towards the end of the top 10 or maybe sort of just 11th, 12th as well, given the point system we have, I think that they could try and actually get a really high spot in the championship with consistency. But whether the fact that I don't expect either of them to really be challenging for podium spots regularly, that might hinder them in the long run. And then one other team I'd like to really point out as well and highlight is Ferrari, of course. Dougie, I think, has the ability to overperform where we've tentatively placed him in the standings. And I think Simons, likewise, again, another driver that's a bit of an unknown going into the season and could be significantly better than we think.
Yeah, and I do think this Ferrari combo of Dougie and Simons could prove to be pretty strong. And I think it's also weird as well that we're not talking about the man that we seeded as our fastest driver on the top of the power ranking, Paris Burrell, who is teammates with Elon Tusk. And it all comes down to this question, doesn't it, Jacob? What do you rate more? Do you rate having one super quick driver, or do you rate having two quick drivers who will both be consistently getting good points?
Well, that's the thing, right? Everything I just said about Alfa Romeo, you can turn it on its head and say it about McLaren. So you can say that while Alfa Romeo, two very much sort of middle of the midfield drivers looking to get consistent points throughout, the other side of the coin is McLaren with Paris, who we expect to win not just a few races this season. I expect him to win multiple races this season at this stage. And then Elon Tusk, who we're expecting probably to be fighting for the real lower end of the points for the majority of the races. However, the Canadian, I think, was a consistent finisher in general last season, tended to sort of benefit from others making more significant mistakes than he did. So there's always the possibility that if a lot of people throw themselves off the road, that Elon can sneak some pretty decent point scoring positions and really help out Paris and the McLaren team in the championship.
And I think when we kind of talk about that kind of McLaren of Paris Burrell and Elon Tusk, I think the same has to be said for Red Bull, which is Ulas and Kennis. And I almost feel that this Red Bull team is essentially the McLaren, but a little bit weaker from both of the drivers, because we've put Paris Burrell ahead of Ulas on the power rankings, and we've put Elon Tusk ahead of Kennis on the power rankings. So do we think it's going to be as black and white as this, or do we think that either Ulas or Kennis could step up their game to make it a little bit closer between these two teams?
They absolutely could. That is for sure a certainty. But it's a certainty that everything's an uncertainty, if you follow what I mean, because there is so much that we are yet to see. Most of these drivers we haven't seen face off directly against each other in anything other than the evaluation races, which decided which leagues all the drivers were put into. And even then, we've only seen a few race against each other here and there. We know the drivers from Premier X last season, but outside of that, there is so much unknown. And, you know, it will be really, really fascinating to see how this whole thing is going to play out. But what this does really, I think the best thing about this is I think the system has worked. I think the idea of seeding these drivers, giving them sort of power rankings, and then allowing them to choose from the top half drivers to choose from the lower half, I think it's worked in bringing us some varied teams and a sort of lineup that you cannot look at it and say, this team is for sure going to win the Constructors' Championship, even though I did say that about Haas earlier, but I would like to clarify that was a
Are we sure it's a joke? Are we sure?
Yeah. I think they are either the most likely or the second most likely team to win, but it's by such a small margin that I could easily still see that team coming fifth.
Jacob, do you remember back to season 1 when we'd make predictions, but we'd do it every qualifying session on what the top 3 would be going into the race, what the top 3 would be at the end? Is this our time to make another prediction, but one that doesn't end after a few measly hours, but one that ends after 12 long weeks?
Well, I think the good thing about that, the nice and sort of comforting thing about that is almost certainly no one's going to remember, unless we remind them, no one's going to remember.
I will remind you. So here's the thing. I'm at a disadvantage because if I win, I have to remember it myself. And if I lose, you could remember it, or our producer Reed could remember it. Or pretty much anyone in the server who absolutely loves to meme me, which is everyone. Because you've been staying a little bit quiet in the general chat on the Discord server. So people aren't aware as much, you know, are we allowed to meme Jacob? You know, is he a cool guy? Is he, you know, is he evil? What's going on here? So right now you're probably telling people that, you know, I'm evil, don't meme me. So they won't want to remind you. But with me, they know that I'm literally a punch bag.
Listen, I can take my fair share of punches. Anyone wants to throw punches at me in the general chat, feel free to do so. I'm just a bit of a quiet guy sometimes, but not when it comes to commentating, of course, but in other regards. But yeah, I mean, if we want to go and give our top 3s right now, I'm perfectly happy to do so. And I'm also happy to say, anyone in chat watching right now, if you want to give your top 3s, what you reckon the top 3 teams will be at the end of the season, we can take a look at that as well and get an idea of what you guys think.
Okay. I like that, Jacob. It's time for a friendly bet. How do we want to do this? Do we want to do you name your third place team or first place team, then I name mine, and then we work like that? How's this jig going to go down?
Yeah, let's both start with the third place team, and we'll go back and forth, and then second, and then first.
See, this feels like to me trying to do the alphabet backwards because I want to work it from like top down to third. So I'm going to need some time. I need to work out like my top 3 and then like go backwards here. And I know I'm going to regret this, but do you want to give your third team first?
Third team first. I will do that. Give me one moment just to quickly analyze all over again.
You need to do the same thing, don't you?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm going to say AlphaTauri.
AlphaTauri, okay. Yeah. AlphaTauri, that is Valor Maverick, okay. AlphaTauri are in my top 3, I know that much, okay. Do I want to put them third? Okay. I'm going to go in third place, I'm going to put McLaren.
Okay. I was on the fence between AlphaTauri and McLaren for third place, so that makes a lot of sense. I think I'm now gonna say McLaren second place.
See, the thing is, I knew you were going to do that. Now,
Yeah.
question is, do I want to go with AlphaTauri?
I mean,
Oh God, right. See, it's between AlphaTauri and another team, and I don't know which of these two teams I want to put first. Right, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here, Jacob. The other team that I'm thinking about is Williams. And
Okay.
this,
Yeah, of
it
course
all
it is.
comes down to, is Racebug quicker than Maverick, and is Calcifer quicker than Valor? I mean, it tends to come down to that, doesn't it? Are
Yeah.
these two drivers quicker than the other two drivers?
Yeah.
And here's the thing, right? Calcifer's told me time and time again that Valor is quicker than him. But I would not be a very good friend of Calcifer. See, that's my claim to fame. I know Calcifer, and he like gives me setups and stuff. I would not be a very good friend if I didn't have faith in Calcifer. And I know Racebug, I know Maverick as well, but see, like myself, I know Maverick's a punchbag, so I think Racebug is going to destroy Maverick. So for that reason, I'm going to put AlphaTauri second.
Okay, all right. Well, that's fair enough, and I'm not at all surprised to hear that you're putting Calcifer on the top spot once again, just as you wanted to do with the individual power rankings as well. Moving swiftly on.
Hey, I agreed that it was going to be close between the top three.
All right. Well, I'll and let it be known this is no slight on Calcifer from my end. It's simply a slight on Milky Cereal and no one else. My top team, unsurprising, you're going to know what it's going to be already. It's Haas.
Yeah, and as you can expect, my top team is it's Williams. Okay.
I mean,
so
yeah.
Right. So let's remember this. I've done Williams, AlphaTauri, McLaren, and you've gone for?
I went. Oh, hold on. No, I'm joking. I went AlphaTauri, McLaren, Haas in that order, or in reverse order. Sorry.
Right. At least they're very similar. They are similar, and I think this needs to be written down. It needs to be engraved in stone. I know Sammy's probably already pinned this in the general chat, and if he hasn't, Sam, hurry up. Okay. So I think we've talked enough about the team, and probably maybe our viewers are getting slightly bored. I know they would never get bored, but maybe they're getting slightly bored of us talking about the team. One of the other things coming into this season that kind of distinguishes FXR from pretty much every other F1 league out there is the point system that we have, because every single driver gets a point.
It sounds like we're having a few,
no matter where you finish.
A little bit of lag there for Milky Cereal. So I'll quickly rephrase what he was going to say there. You get points no matter where you finish in Formula X, and which is what Milky Cereal was getting at there. And I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of the points for each position. So the first place driver receives 46 points. Now, I know it's a bit of a weird number, but it all works out in the end. 46 points for the person who comes first, and then 36 for the one in second. In fact, you can see it right here on screen as well. So there you go. You can see exactly the points all the way down that everyone scores, and then everyone from 11th downwards, it just goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And then the three at the bottom, because they DNF'd and didn't manage to do 90% of the race distance, they do not score any points for that. And then there are bonus points available. You get 2 points if you manage to get it on pole position. And if you finish the race in the top 10 and you get the fastest lap, you get 1 point, just like in the real thing.
Well, Jacob, thank you for that absolutely excellent rundown. But you went 7, 6, 5, 4. And for all of our children out on the stream, what comes after 4?
What comes after 4?
Yes.
3, Yousuf. 3 comes after 4.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
What's happening? What are you doing?
I don't know where I'm taking this, to be honest.
Okay.
I saw an opportunity and I thought, right, we take this opportunity. It's a little bit like when you're driving down the road and you think, you know what, it's time to have a bit of a detour. And you kind of take the exit and then you think, wait, I have no idea where I'm going. And then you just branch back up onto the main road.
For sure. So why don't we take the branch straight to the preliminary results for the Division 2 race, which you can see in front of you here. And now, Milky, I know that you had a close eye on that race. So if you want to just let us know how you saw it. perhaps it seems like Milky is once again blasting off. So I guess we'll just run down, based on the results here, what exactly happened in the Division 2 race. I can tell you... Ooh, that's incredibly loud noise here in the background. So
that was a good segue. I can see why you're certain nominated best.
Yeah, I think I will continue now to talk about what exactly is happening in Division 2. The winner of Division 2 was Bert Kawai in the Red Bull, and then 3 seconds behind was Matt MXTT, who claimed 36 points for second, and then as you can see, WG Players rounding out the podium, 4.4 seconds behind the race leader with 32 points as the whole for that. And you can see already in the Constructors Champions in Division 2, it's also looking pretty spicy with Red Bull and McLaren joint on 46 points and then Racing Point on 40, not too far behind as well. As I mentioned, that was a dry race in Division 2. And then I think we can take a look and see what the podium was like in the Division 1 race right now. And there you can see a couple of familiar faces, actually. We have Pezo taking the win in that one, followed by a certain Milky Cereal coming home second in the Division 1 race. And then Owen AK, who we're very familiar with from last season in Premier X, managing to finish third, also snagging a podium spot. And, well, I was about to ask Yousuf how he saw that race, considering he was a part of it, but he seems to have disappeared once again. So what I can tell you about that race is that it was a wet race. So we've had one dry race thus far this week and then one wet race as well. So, you know, I think it's about coming up time where we can announce what the weather will be for our race today as well. And unfortunately, for those of you who like the wet racing, I'm afraid it's going to be dry all the way today. Overcast conditions in Shanghai at the moment. And as a result, we'll have overcast in the game as well. So I think now we're going to actually take a little moment to just have a couple of words with someone we're going to be seeing in action very shortly, and our current reigning champion, Iceman, who should be joining us in the commentary box any moment for me to give a little bit of an interview to and ask him how he thinks he's going to be going throughout this season. So he should be here any moment now. Okay, so apparently we're going to have a small delay on. There we go. Okay, here is Iceman. Crashman, as he's named himself in the Discord. Hello, Iceman. Okay, so Iceman currently suffering from a couple of technical issues with his microphone as well. So we'll see if we can work out what this is in a moment here. Quickly in chat, if anyone wants to ask any questions to Iceman, if anyone has any questions for me to ask Iceman, feel free to let me know and I will pass them on as soon as I can. And is that Milky Cereal returning, I see?
Yes, I have returned. I might as well just clarify for everyone if they didn't know exactly why I'm having these issues. Essentially, I woke up this morning in, you know how you wake up in the morning. Oh, what a lovely morning. And I checked my phone, and my phone wasn't working because the internet went out. And then I got alerted by the internet service provider that apparently the internet wouldn't be back until Wednesday next week. So I'm on my phone using mobile hotspot, and that's why I'm having some slight issues. So I do apologize to all of our viewers for this.
Mm-hmm. No, it's no problem. I'm sure they will all forgive you. You've done many a service to the league. We'll make best of what we can do today. But that's also why you see the still image there of Yousuf to my right rather than the actual camera as well. So now I think Iceman should be able to actually talk to us. So now we can quickly get an interview, and it's going to have to be a brief one because he's going to be out on track pretty soon. Iceman, hello.
Hello.
Hi. So first things first, where are you going to finish in this race?
Okay, that's a tough question to start on. I aim for a podium. A win, I don't think it's very possible, but I will obviously be optimistic, do my best, and hopefully I can either get a podium or maybe even win.
Mm-hmm. And then thinking about maybe longer in the season as well, how are you feeling about, now that all the teams have been revealed, how are you feeling about the Constructors? Do you reckon you're going to be trying to gun for that one with Haas?
Yeah, I heard what Milky said before. And I think that me and Luca are the best team by far, and that yeah, any team there are many teams that can challenge us, but I ultimately think we'll win quite comfortably. So yeah.
All right. Well, a couple of questions from the Twitch chat as well, just before we let you go, and I'll let Milky ask a couple in a moment as well. But quick question from Luca No Assist, a certain Luca No Assist. I think you might be aware of him, asking why you picked him as your teammate.
That's pretty simple. I picked him because he is a good friend of mine. We obviously work great together as a team, and I think he was by far the best choice available.
Mm-hmm. And then a question from a Ruben, a certain Ruben. Iceman, why do you fear Ruben so much?
Well, I mean, the guy is pretty fast. He basically kicked my butt in Brazil, and yeah, I think he was the one behind the flying. I got basically the glitch there. I think he sent that as a warning to never challenge him. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're right. I think that was a mistake to ever challenge him, and we've seen the ultimate power that he can bring last time out in Interlagos. If you don't know what we're talking about, maybe after this race, go and take a look, because it's quite a comedic moment. Maybe look at the highlights. Yousuf, any further questions from you?
I've got a question for Iceman. What do you think the pole time's going to be?
Oh, I've got an interesting insight on that because I was training with a couple of guys, and let's just say they're gonna be pretty close to these sports times.
Okay.
That's what we
I
like
was
to hear.
figuring it'd be close, but I wasn't sure how close exactly. So we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
All right. Well, I think we should probably let you get back to preparing for the race, Iceman. But thank you very, very much for joining us here in the commentary
Thank you
box
as well.
for that brief interview, and best of luck with the race.
Thanks.
Well, very nice of Iceman to join us for a quick interview. And Jacob, does this mean we get to announce the weather?
I have already announced the weather, I'm afraid.
Oh, wow. You
while
did
were
it without
gone.
me? Wow.
It's overcast. It's boring. It's just the weather. Overcast is the least exciting form of weather, I'm afraid, but it's what we've got. And don't let that fool you. It won't make the racing any less exciting. In fact, I think a dry track, I'm probably actually quite glad of it, because I think that a dry track often makes for much better racing than a wet track.
Oh, I 100% agree. I think it's just one of those things, when you see racing IRL, when the rain comes down, it tends to spice things a little up a bit. You tend to be able to run a little bit close, and as a result, there are different lines you can take around corners as well, and it all just adds into great racing. But I think with the F1 game in particular, when it is wet, you can't really run it close. You can't seem to find the traction. Wet lines aren't a thing, and it becomes so difficult to overtake unless you have a huge pace advantage.
Yeah, so I think all in all, we can be pretty glad that we've got overcast conditions rather than anything damp or rainy like you saw in your race in Division 1. And congratulations, by the way, on that podium.
Oh, thank you. Also, Maverick, he's been memeing me. So, Maverick, if you don't get P2, it means I'm a better driver. Quick maths, right?
Yeah, that works 100%.
Okay, so before I guess we get into qualifying, it might be time for us to talk a little bit about the Shanghai circuit in particular. So we have 16 corners here at the Shanghai International Circuit, a 3.387-mile track. And we've seen a lot of chaotic races in the past. We remember back to 2007, Lewis Hamilton entering the pits and arguably cost him his maiden world championship. But alas for him, he wasn't able to secure it in the end. Jacob, I know you mentioned you like this track. You're glad that we're starting the season here. I'm going to go straight into it. What's your favorite corner on the track?
Favorite corner on the track is turn 6, without a doubt. I think turn 6 is a really, really nice corner, both to drive and in terms of bringing action as well. The little kink in turn 5 just before you get there as well on that sort of brief straight. I think that little section of track, from the exit of turn 3 to turn 6, is really challenging, but in a really nice way and in a way that fosters really great racing.
Okay, so Jacob's a robot and he doesn't like good corners. I'm going to go out and I'm going to say turn 8, and I have a history behind turn 8. I used to play this old game, so some of our viewers may know it. It's called Toka Race Driver 3, and you used to be able to race in some of the Formula cars, and I think it was either the Formula 3 cars, but when you would turn into turn 8, the camera would tilt back as if to give the impression of G-force, and I think it was the only corner on the game that would really do it, or it was the first time I noticed it. And since then, turn 8 has always been one of my favorite corners, and the reason why China is one of my favorite tracks in general.
Yeah, so that does sound really cool, actually, and it makes sense that you like turn 8. But for me, turn 8's too close to turn 9 and 10, which suck. I
Mm.
hate turns 9 and 10.
To be fair, turn
Uh-huh.
7 is better than 8, right?
Turn 7, yeah, better than turn 8 because it's further away than turn 9 from turn 9.
Why was 6 scared of 7? Because 7, 8. Yeah, there you go. See, your corner turn 6 is scared of turn 7. Do you understand the ways now, Jacob?
Sure, but I'm not looking for I'm not looking, I don't care whether my corners are cowards or not. I like the racing turn 6 brings. It's as simple as that. But yeah, turns 9 and 10, easily my least favorite part of the track. It's really hard to drive, and I do think there actually are an interesting challenge as well. But I think the way they're designed means that you get less overtaking into turn 11 than you might otherwise usually expect. And it does often cause sort of corner cutting penalties to be picked up in that part of the track as well.
Yeah, it does, and it just feels like there's that little bit of a lack of grip through 9 and 10, and you're always just fighting the car that little bit. And I remember last season, Jacob, when we were talking about tracks, we kept talking about how you want to be that little bit. I feel we were saying you always wanted to be a little bit aggressive into each corner, a little bit early onto the power. But now that I think about it, Shanghai is probably one of the few tracks that completely goes against that rule, and there's so many corners where you have to be patient, you have to be short shifting up through the gears, and you have to be so careful of that back end stepping out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, turns 12 and 13, you've got to be really, really careful with nailing the exact spot where you can put the power down fully and just slam the throttle, because it's going to be so important because there's such a long straight. I think I always get this number wrong. Is it 1.8 kilometers that straight? It's something like that. It's a huge straight there with the DRS zone as well. So if you're a bit too late and a bit too safe on the throttle on the exit of turn 12 and into turn 13, then you're going to be nowhere all the way down the straight. You're going to be feeling the pain of that the whole way down there. And if you're too early, you're spinning off, and not necessarily into the wall, but definitely onto the grass, and losing a lot of time on what is a high-speed section of the track. So it's a real knife edge balance there, turn 12 and 13. And I think, getting it just right on the throttle brings actually a really significant amount of lap time. And a similar story for the exit of turn 3 as well, which functions basically in a broadly similar way, but to a slightly lesser extent.
Yeah, and I've said a lot of controversial things over my time commentating here at FXR, and I'm going to say another one of those, which is, you know how when you race in the wet, it's so much more difficult than in the dry, and you just wish that it was dry? So I feel that with turn 12 and 13, it might actually be one of the few corners that is easier in the wet than in the dry in a race setting. And hear me out, because over one lap, it most certainly is not. But in the dry, I feel like turn 12 and 13, it's deceiving. You think, okay, I can get on the power, and then snap, your rear end steps out on you. Whereas in the wet, you know that you're going to lose your rear end. So you're always being cautious. And having done 28 laps myself in the wet yesterday, it was a pain to do turn 12 and 13, trying to find the right amount of power for 28 consecutive laps. But in the dry, you might just get to that point where your tires have just worn out a bit too much. You get on the power too quickly, you think it's fine, and then all of a sudden your rear end just steps on you.
Yeah. I mean, I will bow to your recent experience of the wet conditions in that part of the track and just have to believe you, though I am somewhat doubtful that it's better.
It's horrible.
In the wet
It's horrible.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I do want to briefly give a little bit of a mention to turns 1 and 2 as well, because that is one of the more interesting sections of the track. It's very similar, actually, to the opening section of Malaysia, Sepang, which is sadly no longer on the F1 calendar or in the F1 games. But I really like the opening sections of both of these tracks. They're often called a snail section or something along those lines. And the way that the corner slowly tightens as you go around, you can take a lot of speed at the beginning and you're slowly easing off the speed as you go around what is quite a long corner. I think that's a really interesting sort of corner to drive, and not a type of corner that you drive very often in F1 at all.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, very similar to the Malaysia turn 1, and a very unique style of corner. So tricky to get right, so rewarding when you do get it right. But with that said, we are getting very, very close to the hour. With the hour comes a brand new season of FXR. Season 2 about to get underway. Qualifying Q1, Q2, Q3. And before we do get underway, I just want to take a quick thought, really, Jacob, as to what our cutoff times are going to be for each of the sessions. Because so often in leagues, we see, just one qualifying session. But here at FXR, 3 qualifying sessions. And it means that drivers are going to have to be on top of their game for so much longer.
Yeah, definitely. You can't just set one good lap in qualifying and have that be that. You need to set consistently good laps over and over again. And that's one of the nice things about this sort of 3-tiered qualifying is it punishes those who lack consistency. And I think consistency is always going to be an important thing in F1 racing of all kinds and all creeds. Speaking specifically of the cutoffs, I mean, I think you will probably have a better idea of this than me, given your very recent experience at this circuit in a sort of competitive context. Yeah, what do you think for Q1?
Well, I mean, in my races, it was all wet, really. So I didn't do any dry practice, to be honest. But I was taking a look at the esports times from the F1 2020 event at China. And in Q1, pole was a 28.4, and I think it was P20 or P16 was a 28.8. And when you look at the likes of Paris Borel, I think they're going to be very close to that time. But that doesn't really help us for who's going to make it into Q2. So I've kind of gone off like plus 1 second. So I'm going to go with a 1:30.0 as a cutoff time to get into Q2.
A 1:30.0. Okay, well, yeah, I could see that. I think, yeah, to get into Q2 from Q3, I could definitely see it be around that area, maybe a little bit faster than that, but in that area, broadly speaking. I think we're going to see a significant for getting into Q2 and then the cutoff for getting into Q3. And I think it's actually going to get quite a lot faster, maybe up to about half a second faster for the cutoff into the next section. I mean, do you agree with that?
I do, and I'd initially written down a 29.6 for the Q3 cutoff time, but now that I think more and more about it, and I think, and I mean this in no disrespect, but you look towards the back end of the grid, and you see, the likes of Cheggers, you see the likes of Elon Tusk, you see the likes of Kenners, you see the likes of Ruben. Hey, Ruben, you're welcome for that shout out. But then I do think that there is a big jump, and then you get to the likes of Luca, you get to the likes of Luppy and AJ. And I do think there is a significant jump. So I actually want to change this because I do think that it's almost 3 tiers to the entire grid that we've got. I feel that we've got a top 5 maybe. And I should also probably mention as well that Simmons cannot race tonight. I don't know if you mentioned this already, Jacob. So it will be a lad who goes by the name of Vex or Vexet who will be racing. And he is very quick. He's going to be right up there with the likes of Valu and Calcifer, I think, battling for the podium spot. So I think that's going to kind of add on to this a bit more. So I'm going to go with a Q3 cutoff time of a 29.4.
29.4. Okay, that's definitely going to be pretty speedy at that point, and I'd be pretty unhappy if I managed a 29.4 and I was knocked out in Q2. But yeah, I think now we're going to be seeing an example of what one of these qualifying laps may look like in the near future. As I think we've got a little hot lap video to show you, give you a little tour around Shanghai.
FXR Season 1 champion Iceman for a lap here at the Shanghai International Circuit. Turn 1, you can carry so much speed, trail braking all the way through. So important not to have a 4-wheel drift, and Iceman keeps the car beautifully stable as he makes his way now into turn 3 and 4. Don't need to let the car out in between 3 and 4. Just squeeze on that power flat out through the Kings of 5, and now spot your braking down into 6, about 100 meters. And now short shift up on exit China. One of those directions you have to be so patient when applying the throttle on the exit. Not here through turn 7, completely flat. Pull the car over to the left, swing it into turn 8. Again, trail braking, hold the car on to the right as you make your way through 9 and 10, using up as much track as possible. And again, be careful, be tentative with that rear end. You make your way into turn 11, braking at 100 meters, and it's so slippery on this off-camber turn 11. Now all the way through turn 12, you're feeding the power in, short shifting up into 50 gear, and get the best possible exit you can as you make your way onto the extremely long run down into turn 14. one of, if not the longest race on the calendar. Now that you've had a quick little break up the 100-meter board and dropping it down into first gear, short shifting up to third on the exit of turn 14. Through that little kink of 15, and now just to throw the car into 16. You can cut so much curb, but that is a lap here at Shanghai.
Oh, please.
All right, welcome back everybody. I hope you enjoyed that little hot lap there. And now we are finally into the qualifying session itself. The time has arrived. Unfortunately, you may notice we've got 19 drivers on the left-hand side rather than 20. It seems that Elon Musk has had some sort of issue getting into the lobby. I'm not sure if he's actually present or what's happened with Elon Musk, but the Canadian driver is not going to be making it for the first part of qualifying here. Hopefully he can find his way into this at some point, but we'll have to wait and see. And now we will see the first drivers out on track for the entirety of Season 2 here in Premier X FXR. And I believe it's one of the Williams cars. And who is it? It's Racebug, of all people. So Racebug, the last person to arrive in as a main driver in the division, is the first one to leave the pits and start off the very first qualifying of Season 2. And there you can see him in the Williams. One of Milky Cereal's picks for the top three teams. And this will give us a pretty... this first lap for Racebug will honestly be pretty revealing once we see the next few drivers come through. Just behind him on track, we've got the likes of A2 UK, and I think that's Max as well. So they're going to be very decent yardsticks. The sort of people we might be expecting Racebug to be in and around. So it'll be interesting to see, just at the very early stage of qualifying here, how he's going to stack up alongside them.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really looking in these first few laps because I think they're going to be so important, especially for the quicker drivers, because if you do not get that quick lap in straight away, it's going to be a set of tires that are down the gutter, and you need every single set of tires available, not just for the race, but to be able to use for a second run once you get to Q3.
Yeah, indeed. So, you do want to nail this time as best you can. You don't want to be out there doing lap after lap after lap on the soft tires, as we saw some people doing last season. A certain Mahavir Raghunathan was doing that a few times, I seem to remember. So hopefully none of these drivers will be falling prey to that particular issue. As now we will see Racebug coming around the final corner to start up this first flying lap of the session. And the Williams driver crosses the line, going down towards turn one. Quite a long run, gives you plenty of time to think about turn one, but you don't want to think about it too hard because it is possible to overthink it. Sort of taking the middle of the road approach here, not too tight to the inside, doesn't quite meet the apex of turn two there, but easily into turn three, no problem. And on the exit, pretty nice as well. We're looking pretty smooth thus far for the Williams driver, as up towards my favorite corner on the track, turn 6. Gets it turned in, kisses the apex just about, leaves a little bit more track than necessary on the left-hand side. So maybe could have taken just a little bit more speed through there, taking as wide an entry to turn 7 as possible. And into turn 8 we go as well. This is one where you sort of have to judge and wait to work out when you can get back on the throttle. Not on the apex of turn 9, but that doesn't necessarily matter too much. Meets the apex of turn 10 and doesn't run too wide over the curbing on the exit, so no invalidations here for Racebug, cutting the corner significantly into turn 11, but again, does not invalidate. Turns 12 and 13. Now here we go, and I think already flat out in the Williams as we get on to the long back stretch, where there's not so much for me to talk about right now, as DRS will now be wide open, and we just sit here and wait, as Racebug is doing right now, for the braking zone. Here it is, just before the 100-meter board. You slam on the brakes, lock up on the inside front tire there, and clunking over the curbing on the inside of the corner as well. Maybe not the fastest way through there, running just not quite wide enough to invalidate in the final corner. And it's only a 130.3 for Racebug in the opening trade here. We'll see. I think it's A2 UK who's going to be the next driver across the line. Luppy out here pushing as well. I think Max has already had the back out and into the pits as A2 UK goes slower than Racebug onto a 130.5. Luppy up towards the line in the racing point goes faster with a 130.2, and Iceman immediately beats it in the Haas as well, up to a 130.1. Kenner's going comfortably into 5th and what is currently last position in the Red Bull with a 130.8.
Yeah, and don't
Ooh.
forget, still early stages of qualifying here, Jacob, as...
Yeah, I think that I think it was Ruben Span out of the final corner there has crossed the line, but 5 seconds down on the pace. So a mistake early in this first qualifying session for the Mercedes driver. And now Wheeze going to the top of the standings in the Renault, about a tenth and a half faster than Iceman.
Yeah, and what I wanted to mention is it's still early stages of qualifying. The track is going to get rubbered in. It will get quicker. So expect the difference from, the first few laps of qualifying to the end of Q1 to be probably over 2-3 tenths.
Indeed, yeah. And going to be expecting quite a lot of close stuff. Maverick up into second place in the AlphaTauri. Okay, Maverick, I was asking before we got into this qualifying session whether we were going to see Maverick challenging the likes of Iceman in this season. And already in the very, very first lap of the first qualifying session, he goes a little bit faster than the Haas driver, though of course track improvement is in play and there's plenty of time for these guys to really nail a lap. But that's a nice little statement of intent there from Maverick. The two Alfa Romeo boys, A2 UK and AJ, currently sitting very similarly in the standings right now, a tenth and a half between them as they are 6th and 7th. And one interesting little tidbit about them is if you actually look at the time trial standings for this circuit on PC F1 2020, they are one place apart in the standings, these two teammates. AJ is 384th and A2 UK is 385th. And that puts them 10th and 11th overall in this particular field for where their time trials stack up.
It does indeed. And Jacob, I have had the best news that I've had all day.
What's that?
Apparently, my Wi-Fi is working. So with that, I'm going to take a quick dip, and I'm going to, well, not a dip into the sea, but a dip back to my PC, and I shall be rejoining you in the call in a few minutes' time.
Fantastic. I cannot wait to see you back. So, I will briefly be riding solo here as we wait for Yousuf to find his way back. He was so happy he was rhyming the CPC. Anyway, we now see Vexit, the stand-in in the Ferrari, heading in towards turn 1. Getting it turned in pretty nicely. Meeting the apex of turn 2 more than we saw when we were on board with Racebug earlier in this session. Flat out now through the kink of turn 5 and up towards turn 6. Braking a little bit later than perhaps was optimal. Didn't quite make the apex. Ran pretty wide on the exit using up all the road, but that's okay. Because I think Iceman has been able to improve on his time by just a fragment. Staying in third for now in the Haas through turn 8. Vexit running wider on the exit of turn 8 than you would expect. That's actually going to compromise his line through turn 9. Struggling with the rear. You can see how hard it is to get the power down when you're halfway between turns 9 and 10. And that will have cost Vexit just a little bit of time here in the meeting the apex. It's a bit of a splat from the stand-in driver in the Ferrari for now, and I think that was a correction through turn 13. That's going to be costing him all the way down this back straight as well. So yeah, Vex, I'd expect to see this time going down towards the sort of bottom end of the times we've seen thus far, but I may well be surprised. We'll have to wait and see as he comes into this final major braking zone of the circuit. And once again, the rear end kicking out on the exit. A loose rear end seems to have been the order of the day for Vexit in this Ferrari, and he definitely wouldn't have liked the taste of it, that is for sure. Nice final corner, though. And I tell you what, I do not understand how that has happened, because Vexit goes to the top of the standings on a 129.779, and I'm honestly flummoxed. Valu, a 129.170. That's astonishing. Valu has just absolutely smashed the bar right now in what is now the lead of the two AlphaTauris. Valu, a driver who's known as a bit of a hot lapper in general, definitely a fast driver overall, but he does really always is very, very high up in the time trial standings. He's got the fastest time trial lap of any of these drivers around here. He's 46th in the world in China at the moment, and right now he's first in the lobby by a long margin. So that is a huge benchmark that he has just laid down. Max, who had to invalidate his first lap and came into the pits, now coming across the line and up in a 7th. They'll be pretty happy with that. And as an opening trade here, as a sort of Division 1 promotee in the Renault. Now just taking a look down the rest of the order. Ruben still's not been able to get into the 130s yet. It's a 131.058 for the South African. Chegg Fried Rice, that is Cheggers, Lord Chegwin, all kinds of different names. He likes to vary it up from race to race, and Chegg Fried Rice is a pretty nice one, I'll be honest. A 1:39.46, that's going to put them at the bottom outside of Ruben down in P12 for the time being. Paris Burel and Ulash both yet to set a lap time, and those are definitely two we're expecting to make it through into Q2 and into Q3, of course, as well. So they might well challenge Valu's time at the top, of course. It only matters what time you get if you're in the bottom 5. All that this session matters for is determining the bottom 5 drivers, or in this case, the bottom 4, as we only have 19 drivers today. And everyone else will be able to advance to Q2, where the times will be wiped and they can go again, just in case there's anyone out there who's unfamiliar with the qualifying format. So Paris Burel and Ulash, that's why they've left it so late to go out. They're confident, they know that they have it within them to get into those upper echelons of these lap times and be safe to make it up into Q2. And no one out there on a flying lap right now, unless Max is flying for a second time in a row, but I think he is probably heading back into the pits in the Renault. So we'll just ride on board with Paris as he's currently setting up, warming up the tyres and the brakes as Max does indeed head into the pits there. So it's only going to be Paris, Ulash, Calcifer, and Kenners on track at the moment. So both Red Bulls are out there, and I think Ulash has already started the flying lap. And I believe I just heard the arrival of a certain Milky Cereal, unless I'm very much mistaken.
You have indeed, Senor Jacob. I have returned, although I'm still logging back into F1 so I can see the race feed. How's qualifying going?
Qualifying was going, it was looking pretty close for a while, and then all of a sudden Valu just went on a 1:29.1 when the next best time was a 1:29.7. So Valu has absolutely just sort of blown everyone out the water right now. The Finnish driver in the AlphaTauri looking really, really good as Paris is now pushing on this flying lap here into turn 6. We go a bit of a lock-up there for the British driver in the McLaren and leaving a lot on the table on the exit as well, but I don't think that will cost him very much to make up for it for sure. By the time he gets to the checkered flag, into turn 9 we go, lock up again, not quite meeting the apex, but I don't think anyone's going to be meeting that apex very often in this qualifying session. It's a very hard one to get all the way across to. Manages to kiss the inside curbing for turn 11 nicely there and on towards turns 12 and 13. It's all set up well to go onto this main back straight.
Yeah, and I'm glad as well to hear that the times have dropped, because I was starting to think that I had overestimated, but to see that time getting closer to a 29 dead makes me a bit more faithful in my predictions.
Yeah, for sure. We might well still be proved to be a bit over-optimistic with our Q2 cutoff time, as there are plenty of drives outside of that 1:30 mark, and Paris invalidating in the final corner there in the McLaren, so a bit of pressure now on what is our currently top-seeded driver here, Paris. We're expecting to get through, but if Paris can't string a whole lap together, it's going to be a problem. And Ulash, who was on a flying lap last time around, also has yet to complete a valid lap time as Calcifer goes up into P2 on a 1:29.6. So Ulash and Paris, both under a little bit of pressure. They need to keep these laps clean right now, or else they'll risk burning a second set of tyres, or even just flat out running out of time, as we've got 4 minutes remaining in the session or thereabouts.
Well, there's two options right now, Jacob. They can either go for a second hot lap, or they can get into the pits and go back out. 3.5 minutes should be enough time for them to complete an in lap and an out lap, as well as doing all of the hoo-ha in the pit. So with 4.5 minutes, once we saw Paris fail to complete his hot lap, he should have enough time to go for either of those options.
Yeah, indeed. And now Ulash coming in towards the final corner of the lap. This is one of the easiest ones to invalidate. He's got to be very careful. He runs wide, but not wide enough to invalidate. And Ulash will have come across the line. It's a 1:29.4. He was probably playing it safe, but he's still about 0.3 of a second behind Valu. So the Finn sitting very pretty here at the very opening exchanges in Q1.
I'm starting to regret my decision to put Williams ahead of AlphaTauri. That's all I'm going to say right now. Also, just noticing as well that don't be fooled either, Jacob. Do you remember that old glitch we used to see where drivers would set a lap after the qualifying time had ended?
Uh-huh.
Well, it wasn't a glitch as much so as the timing that we would see as spectators wasn't in sync with the time that the drivers had. So apparently there is more than 3 minutes remaining in the session. So there should be plenty of time left for Paris to get back out. And he's in the pits now, as we see AJ who seems to be on an outlap of his own.
I think, well, AJ actually just set that 129.9 to go up into P5. His teammate A2 UK going up onto a 129.6. These are guys that were in the sort of mid-130s on their first runs. So a lot of track improvement has come through at this stage, and the drivers really getting their eyes in as well. So we are going to see these times tumbling pretty significantly, and a lot of people are going to be feeling a bit less safe now than they maybe once were. Maybe even the likes of Maverick, Iceman, and Wheeze might be having to come back out just to ensure their safety. Paris didn't manage to set a lap time, so the McLaren driver will have to come out again. Luca, Rainbow, Dougie, Falcons, all drivers were expecting to be very, very fast drivers in this league, all yet to set a lap time, allowing the pressure to start piling on their shoulders, but I'm sure they will be able to deal with it when it comes to the crunch time. Ruben is going to be wanting to improve, as AJ does indeed head back into the pits after setting that 129.9, so that's probably going to have to be good for him. He might just be able to get out and set another lap time, as Lucky is preparing for his.
Yeah, so here we go then for Lucky to start a lap, and as you mentioned, we still got 4 very quick drivers in Paris, Luca, Rainbow, and Dougie. Still have to complete their laps, but let's see what Lucky can do. He'll want to improve by at least 2 tenths, gets a really nice run all the way through turns 1 and 2, and now slow it right down into turn 3. Look at the short shifting from Lucky straight up into 4th gear. Want to make sure there's no chance of wheel spin at all on exit. Through turn 5, and now spot your braking down into turn 6, dropping it down into 2nd. Again, look at the short shifting up into 3rd, straight on the exit of the hairpin. And now through turn 7 and 8. This is where patience really comes in. Flat out through turn 7 and into turn 8. Dropping it down into 4th gear. Straight back up to 5th. But he doesn't quite pull the car all the way over to the right as he swings it through turns 9 and 10. Gets a decent exit. Let's see what the Sector 2 Delta time is. 3 tenths up for Luppy. And this is looking to be a 29.9 as things stand.
Yeah, this should slot him up in between Vexit and AJ. Vexit has retired. Iceman has retired in the pits as well. So evidently the Haas driver believes that he's done enough to get through into Q2 here. AJ will also retire. Valu certainly has done enough at the very top of the order, as Luppy now into the heavy braking zone before turn 14. Maybe getting a slight slipstream from his teammate, but that didn't look too awfully planned, as it might have taken his eye off the ball in turn 14 there. Now turn 16, the final corner, cuts it just the right amount and up towards the line for Luppy. It's a 129.5, up into 3rd place now for the Racing Point driver, ahead of Rainbow, who has been able to pop his Mercedes up into P4. Dougie Falcons in the Ferrari around the final corner now as well. Where's he going to go? It's all the way up in a 2nd for the British driver in the red car, and that is a pretty solid lap time, but it still doesn't really come that close to Valu, who is looking absolutely imperious right now. It is only Q1, of course, so I'm going to temper my excitement, but I am getting pretty excited about what we're seeing from Valu here. I think I just saw someone improve a little bit towards the bottom of the order, but maybe not enough. Luca did manage to set a lap time finally, but it's only good enough for 13th right now, and might need to improve on a 130.1.
I think you had just seen Racebug improve on his lap, a 30.19 from the Williams driver. Still got Paris to complete his lap. Don't forget, Ruben could be carrying a lot more pace, and maybe even Max can improve by a few tenths as well.
Yeah, Chegwin, Cheg Fried Rice, Lord Chegwin has retired out on track, and I'm not sure if he's actually picked up terminal damage on the exit of turn 10. You can lose the car there, and it would be weird for him to retire right now. Maybe he simply invalidated his lap and then immediately retired thereafter. I'm not sure, as Paris through the final corner was risking it all by running incredibly wide through there, but he goes straight up into P2 with a 129.252, and I tell you what, he was very close to invalidating that one once again. So now it's up to the very bottom of the order. It's Max, Kenners, and Ruben who can look to try and do something about their standing here in Q1, but I'm only seeing one Mercedes out on track, and it's not going very fast at all, so that's not good news for the South African.
Yeah, that is not good for Ruben at all. Remember when we interviewed him during our podcast, he was fairly confident that he was going to be towards the front end of the grid, and we expected him to be at least in the kind of battle with the likes of Maverick and A2 UK, but A2 exceeding expectations right now, and Ruben really not meeting them.
Erasebug not pushing either, so there's a chance here for Max and Ken as if they're on a flyer. Max has invalidated. We saw him do that early in the session, and he's weaving in frustration there in the Renault. Kenners comes across the line, and it's only a 130.2 for him. So we are going to see Kenners, Max, Chegwin, and Ruben all falling out here in Q1. Racebug just scraping through by the skin of his teeth, and same for the two Haas drivers, 13th and 14th, both on a 130.1, only safe by about a tenth and a half.
Only safe by a tenth and a half indeed, and well, I feel a little bit better about my prediction because I believe I said a 30.0. It turned out to be a 30.1, 30.2, so we were fairly close with the prediction.
Yeah, no, they're definitely, a lot of them raised their game right towards the end of the session there. Ruben, unfortunately, was not able to do so, and I think he's venting his frustration out there on track as he gets rid of all the brake marker boards before heading back into the pits in the Mercedes. And starting off this season with Mercedes, Ruben and Rainbow, they'd have been feeling pretty good, and there was a case to be made for them wanting to maybe be in the chat for that top 3 in the Constructors' Championship, but this has not started well for them at all.
And I think kind of coming off this first qualifying session, I don't think we can say exactly who are any winners, but we can say who are the losers going off our power ranking. And right now, it really is a Ruben who just has not been able to match the expectations. I think Max as well. I think we even said in the power rankings, we weren't sure about Max, but we had high hopes. And I think he's been a little bit below what we expected. Kenneth, though, he has really shown up because we put him right at the bottom of our power rankings, and he's shown up big. He's even out-qualified Chegwin, who was his teammate back in Season 1.
Yeah, out-qualified him comfortably as well, though, Chegwin, of course, with that DNF. I wonder if that was actually just terminal damage that he picked up in the Racing Point. I fear we won't know unless he comes along in chat to let us know. But with the session ending, yeah, those Haas drivers, they're also kind of losers in this situation. Iceman in particular, down in P13, though it is only Q1, and he did retire in the pit, so he had the opportunity to improve. And maybe it's just that sort of Iceman, the ice-cool confidence, knowing that his time was just going to be enough.
Yeah, and well, I guess Iceman, he's done enough practice. He had a better idea of the grid than I did, and he thought, you know what, this lap, it's enough. But here in Q2, he definitely will not be happy with a 30.1. He will be wanting to get well into the 29s.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And now is the opportunity. Now is the time where these drivers are not going to be able to rest on their laurels quite so early in the session, because it's going to be a lot tighter to make it into Q3 here today. And yeah, looking at these drivers, it's not that easy to work out who we're expecting to be the bottom 5 either, because I'm not sure that we learned too much about that many of the drivers in that session, because a lot of them were going out at different times. There were a lot of invalidations and a lot of people retiring early as well. Once again, what we have learned is that Racebug likes to be the first car out on track. He was the first out on track in Q1, and he's the first out on track here in Q2 as well.
Trying to get as much track time as possible is Racebug, but this is the other thing I wanted to talk about, and Racebug is highlighting it brilliantly. Q2, this is the session where your fastest lap in this session, should you qualify into the top 10, should you make your way into Q3, these tires will be the tires that you start on. And thank you, production, very much for highlighting the current tire selection. A lot of drivers going for mediums, and the reason for this is the medium to hard strategy is much quicker than the soft to medium strategy. The softs burn up so quickly here at China. So those drivers on the soft tires, while it may help them in the short run, while it may give them a higher starting position, in the race, after about 3 laps, they are going to be eaten alive by the medium tire runners.
Yeah, and I wonder which drivers we're going to see thinking maybe not backing themselves on those medium tires and looking to go out on the softs instead. A2 UK has already commenced an outlap on the soft tires in the similarly coloured Alfa Romeo. So, yeah, A2 not backing himself, interestingly enough, even though he was looking pretty solid in that Q1 session, in all honesty. He was comfortably inside the top 10 there. And, still feeling like going out on the softs. Maybe this is just going to be a banker lap for A2 UK. AJ also going out on the softs as well, so both Alfa Romeos deciding that they want the outright pace in this session, and Paris Burel as well on the soft tyres.
Yeah, this is really interesting to see from Paris, especially because remember, Paris we assume, use 2 sets of soft tyres in race, but he's actually invalidated this lap. He ran wide through the final corner, so that's a big blow for Racebug, because you only get 1 set of medium tyres throughout your qualifying sessions.
Yeah, but the sort of saving grace there is that the mediums, they last for longer. It matters a little bit less if you take that extra lap out of them, particularly if you take that lap slowly. You're not going to wear them out too much. The Racebug needs to make sure that they've got enough fuel in the car to complete an X flying lap and another in lap as well. And yeah, that it invalidates both the lap you were on, which was the out lap, and then the next lap as well, because you can set up for the final corner by cutting it. So that is why Racebug's time has been completely invalidated. So I think that might be A2 UK starting a flying lap. And here we see Wheeze as well. Now A2 UK into turn one in that Alfa Romeo with the very nice color scheme with those red walled soft tires. And maybe that was the entirety of the decision from both of those Alfa Romeo boys to go out on those soft. It's only them and Paris. And Paris has head straight back into the pits as well. So I wonder if Paris was just getting an idea of the conditions and the way the track currently is, getting a bit more practice on another set of soft tires in preparation for Q3.
Yeah, and what you can also see from a lot of drivers is like they'll go out on soft tires, but they'll just put in a banker lap time. They won't be going 100%, maybe not even 80%, but they'll just put in a time that they know if they get a good time together with a set of medium tires, they'll be able to beat it. So sometimes it's nice to have a banker lap time, get a feel of the track, because don't forget, as A2 UK invalidates on the exit of turn 10, that's going to be a big, big blow for him. But as I was saying, don't forget that even if you get a good lap in, sorry, I kind of just lost train of my thought after A2 invalidated there. Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one.
All right, well, I'll await your update eagerly, as Racebug has now started a second flying lap in the Williams as well. Let's see what Wheeze is able to do. Once again, going for the color scheme bonus with the tires, the yellow medium tires on the yellow and black Renault. It all works very, very nicely for Wheeze. He will now be heading up to the final corner. Hasn't invalidated this lap and is still pushing, so it's probably going quite well. Cuts a lot of the inside there, but not so much that you invalidate. And up towards the line, it's a 130.9 on the mediums. I'm not sure that's going to be fast enough, even on the medium tires, but we'll have to wait and see. You know, being the only driver to set a lap time on medium tires in this qualifying thus far, there's a lot still to be learned.
Yeah, and even if drivers decide to switch over to soft tires and it drops you outside of that top 10, it's fine if it means you can start in P11 with fresh tires, as long as the other drivers weren't able to make it to Q3 or medium. And I think I just remembered what my point was, and then I lost it as I started talking about another point. I'm having a real Chris Kamara moment right now.
No worries. There's Vexit, who, I tell you what, my Chris Kamara, it wasn't exactly a Chris Kamara moment, but my moment was when I was flaming Vexit's lap for the whole time in Q1, when he was setting a lap time, and then, okay, well now he's got he went to the top of the order when I was saying this lap doesn't look very good, it looks messy. And this time around I was going to say, surely he messed it up into the hairpin, maybe he's going to go to the top, but no, he's actually 4 seconds off the pace. In P2 now in the Ferrari. Here is his teammate, Dougie Falcons, who gets a much tighter line through the hairpin and up towards the final corner. Leaving a lot on the table on the inside there, actually, avoiding the cut like his life depended on it, but still goes comfortably fastest with a 130.359, and there's definitely at least a tenth more to be had in that final corner.
Yeah, definitely more time for Dougie, and I've just remembered my point. It was that you don't want to be using your mediums at the start of the session, because don't forget, the track will get quicker over the course of the session, so sometimes it's better to leave those mediums until the very end, but then you run the risk of having one chance, one shot, and if you fail, it's all down the gutter.
Indeed. So, you know, you do want to get a good lap time in early just to make sure that you don't put yourself under any unnecessary pressure. But a lot of them did put themselves under unnecessary pressure last time, and it worked out for all of them in the end. As Calcifer now, the Estonian, riding on board in the Williams. Into turn one we go, and a much tighter line through turn one than what we've been seeing from the majority of the drivers. Interesting, a completely different philosophy there.
Yeah, I was speaking actually to Calcifer yesterday when I was doing my practice for my wet weather race, and he was telling me, no, Milky, stop running wide through turn one and into turn two, take a tighter line. I thought he just meant it for the wet, but clearly Calcifer, he thinks it's quicker in the dry as well. One thing's for certain, you'll be taking a lot more wear out of your tires with that line.
Yeah, that is true, but I think, you know, it's another really nice factor about turns 1 and 2 here, is you can take multiple lines through it, and, you know, there are bonuses, there are plus sides, there are downsides to all of them, and it's especially nice in the start as well, because you don't necessarily know if you take the outside line or the inside line which is going to be the better when you get down towards turn 3. I've seen 2 purple sectors for Calcifer thus far, but sometimes the game does tell lies about that, so I'll reserve judgment on that until we get up towards the line. Now onto the back straight. It all looks smooth through turn 13, so at least the Williams will be feeling good about that as we wait now to get down to the braking zone for the hairpin braking. Just as the curb begins on the left-hand side, running too deep. That's going to have cost him at least about 0.3 of a second, if not more, in the Williams there. He'll have to try and recover the time through the final corner as well. Actually, takes quite a safe line through there. Again, not cutting the corner as much as you can get away with up towards the line. It's a 1:30.6. So that's 3 or 2.5 tenths still clear of Iceman and Wheeze, but behind Valu, Vexit, and Dougie Falcons, and now Rainbow.
Yeah, and Rainbow sets a 30.3, and the top 5 separated by just 0.3 of a second. Luppy with a 30.7 on the medium. And it looks like Luppy and Iceman, this might be a bit of a battle that goes across the entire season, because these two have been nose to tail in Q1 and now in Q2 as well.
Yeah, I think both of them will be hoping that they'll be nose to tail a little bit higher up the order, though. I think both of them won't be happy with how this qualifying is going, particularly Iceman will not be happy with how things have been going thus far. He said he was hoping for a podium in his little pre-race interview we had with him, as Ulash also runs a little bit deep into the hairpin there. So some of our sort of top-rated drivers struggling just a little bit in that particular section of track. Ulash, only 10th, of course. Okay, so he had actually completely backed out of that lap. It was a 1:35.6, so I'm not quite sure why he locked up so heavily into the hairpin. Maybe just sort of testing the limits for this next flying lap.
And you also see from Ulas on the start of this lap, a tight line, not quite as tight as what Calcifer did through turns 1 and 2, but tighter than what we would ordinarily expect. So Ulas kind of on this tight scheme as he goes purple in sector 1, 600ths quicker than what he did on his previous lap.
Yeah, it seems like that's not where he lost the time last time around, so we'll have to wait and see. At some point, that delta to his previous lap is going to improve rapidly, as he will no longer be 4 seconds off the pace, or at least so I hope. Maverick down in 9th at the moment, and about 0.3 shy of the rest of the field, who are also on those medium tyres. Maverick will be pretty disappointed with that, as it's now 2.7 seconds up for Ulash. So we can see it was somewhere in sector 2 that he threw it all away last time around, running really wide through 13 and actually got a touch of the curbing on the outside, and as a result almost span up the car completely. And Ulash, this is another lap that's just going to have to go straight in the bin after that, surely.
I wonder how much time he lost, because if he had done that anywhere else, it wouldn't have been too big a deal. But this is the corner before one of the longest straights on the F1 calendar. He would have lost so much time from it. But let's see what he can pull out.
He's backed out.
He has backed out. He's going to go for one more lap. These mediums, should he start in the top 10, they are going to be shocked come the start of the race.
Yeah, Ulash definitely not getting the rub of the green here, and I say the rub of the green, it is all his own doing. So Ulash, the crack starting to show just a little bit for our second seed driver here, struggling in Q2 right now, struggling to get a lap strung together on those medium tires. I wonder if anyone's going to have to resort to the softs and who it will be who will first do so. Looks like Racebug has actually set a lap time on those soft tires, but it's only a 1:30.5. We saw Racebug struggling to make it through as Paris goes up in a second on the medium tires, but Racebug did struggle to make it through Q1, so I'm not surprised to see him run the soft tires earlier on in this session.
And this is where things can get really thrown around, because now when you get drivers like Racebug who start to qualify on those softer tires, you get the likes of Calcifer and Lucky, and they have to start thinking, do we go for soft tires? Do we want to qualify in the top 10?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a call that these guys are going to have to make right now. A2 UK, after starting with the soft tires, invalidating, came back in for a set of mediums, and now it's only a 1:30.9 for A2 UK, so sitting outside of the top 10 for now, and there's no good start of doing your fastest lap time on the medium tires if you don't make it into Q3. It doesn't make a jot of difference. As we now see Wheeze pushing on these soft tires. I'd expect to see the Renault going somewhere up towards the top of the order now that he is on the faster compound, though he did run a little bit wide on the exit of turn 6, which would have compromised him a bit. Also struggling as he went on the curb through turn 7. Ulash coming across the line now, and it's a second's worth of improvement, but it's still a 1:34. The Turkish driver is struggling out there.
And Ulas is not going to have time to get back to the pits and go back out again, so I hope he's got enough fuel and he can push one more time. But this is what, 4 laps now? He would have done 4 flying laps on those medium tires. But Reese, what can he pull out? Currently in the drop zone, a 1:30.9 at the moment. Can he improve?
We'll have to see. The line didn't look too great for me through turn through there, which might have just lost him a little bit of time as he avoided running wide on the exit of that corner and getting on the curbing, which can really throw you off in turn 13. Final corner, turn 16, doesn't cut very much, but that's okay. Up towards the line, and he does go comfortably fastest on those soft tires with a 129.7. Not exactly setting the world alight, but that's going to comfortably get him into Q3, you'd have to expect. AJ up towards the line in the Alfa Romeo now, and only goes 12th. Narrowly behind A2 UK, so they're close in the time trial standings, and they're very close here in qualifying as well, both on those medium tires and both currently going to be falling out in Q2. Lucky is just starting a flying lap here in the Racing Point.
Yeah, we also see Iceman, he's gone out. So what you're going to see is a load of these drivers, they're going to go out, they're going to start laps on their soft tires, and if they don't get bumped down the order, they will then abort their lap. And it's all about who is last to cross the line, who will have that full picture of information, and you can bet them, you can bet anything that they'll have their race engineers cautiously watching the screen.
Ooh. Ulash, look at the track, it's red, he's validated again. Ulash, can he get back into the pits in time? It shows 1 minute remaining in the session. It'll be a little bit more than that, but I think Ulash has blown it here. I don't think he's going to have enough time. Iceman retires out on track, it would appear, in the Haas. I wonder if he ran wide through turn 1 or something, but he decides he's not fast enough. Oh yeah, he did come across the line and do that 30.5. Rainbow going to retire as well on a 30.3, so both of them feeling comfortable right now. Is Luca on an outlap, yet to set a time, so Luca under pressure just as Ulash was. Ulash retires and is out, and if Luca can just set a half-decent lap time, Ulash is going to have qualified 15th here.
Yeah, and this is awful for Ulas. However, there is the old sour grape story. It does mean he gets to start on a fresh set of tires. Sure, it's not the ideal situation, but it is at least he gets to start on fresh mediums come the race. So it's not over for Ulas. China has a lot of overtaking opportunities. We talked about it in the pre-show, and Ulas will have to use everything as Luppy takes provisional pole.
Yeah, Luppy and Wheeze, two drivers we expect to be close together on track quite a lot. Close together in their qualifying times right here in China, both on the 1:29.7. They're both going to be comfortably making it through, but they will have to start the race on the soft tires, which is the price that you pay here. A price that the Alfa Romeo drivers elected not to pay, and as a result, A2 UK and AJ will both be falling out in Q2. Neither of them will be making it to the pole position shootout. We'll see what Luca can do here in the Haas. Needs to be a good lap, and we haven't seen that much from the Croatian thus far in Q1 and in Q2 as well. Still yet to set a lap time, so really holding cards close to the chest, but whether that's voluntary or whether it's because he's been invalidating, we'll have to find out. As up towards the final heavy braking zone now, turn 14, the exit turn 15, that'll look pretty neat and tidy for the Haas driver. Final corner we go, leaving it, running wide on the exit. He left a lot of space on the inside and ran too wide on the exit, and you can see the visible frustration in the cockpit as it's Luca who's going to be 15th, and Ulash breathes the slightest little sigh of relief as he's going to be 14th, but I still don't think he'll be happy enough with that. There's a Williams coming up to the line right now. Is that Racebug? It is, as Racebug goes even faster. I'm not sure it was necessary, but he was going to be starting on the soft tires regardless on a 1:30.3. Valu decides that he can afford to just sack in this lap here, as it's only Maverick who can look to push someone out. It's between Maverick, Calcifer, and Vexit right now. Calcifer out there on soft, but has backed out of the lap. What is Maverick doing? He's the danger man to watch right now in the AlphaTauri. Vexit seems to think that he's under no threat, and Maverick has invalidated. So that will be that. It will be A2 UK, AJ, Maverick, and then Ulash and Luca, who are going to be falling out here in Q2.
And that is crazy. The fact that Ulas is out and then Luca couldn't pull his lap together. I think Luca would have made it into the top 10, you know. I think he could have forced Calcifer to qualify on those set of softer tires. However, Luppy, Wheeze, and Racebug all starting on the softer tires. So will Rainbow as well, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they're in a good situation. I think they've gone for the qualifying glory, but come Q3, I think they're going to be at the bottom end, and then they're going to have the likes of A2 UK and AJ, only a few places behind them, starting on medium tires. I don't think this is the right strategy for them.
We'll have to wait and see. They definitely valued getting into Q3 more than anything else. As you can see, it's the top three runners, Luppy, Wheeze, and Racebug, who felt the need to go onto the red walled soft tires and will be starting the race on those, and they will feel the pain of that when it comes to the race itself. Racebug well off the pace of Luppy and Wheeze as well, the Portuguese driver, only just clear of the rest of the medium runners. Rainbow actually was on medium tires in the Mercedes, so that's a very solid lap time indeed to go faster than Paris Burel and Dougie Falcons, but they're all well within a tenth of a second of each other.
Yeah, and we know that Calcifer, he lost a couple of tenths as well. And to be honest, if we look from Rainbow all the way down to Calcifer, it's 3 tenths. And if Calcifer hadn't messed up, maybe 2 tenths. 2 tenths separating those 5-6 drivers. That is insanely close. We're going to be in for an incredible Q3 top 10 shootout.
Indeed, yeah, no, it's going to be very, very interesting to watch this one. We've seen some mistakes being made by various drivers. As Ulash saying he was on track for about a 30.2 on his medium tires before making that final mistake in the final corner, invalidating. So Ulash would definitely have been in the conversation for pole position here had it not been for that. But right now, who do you reckon is going to be on pole, Milky?
My money's on Paris. We put him at the top of the power rankings. I know Calcifer and Valu are quick, but I think when it comes down to it, Paris is going to pull out the lap. We talked about, what we think that pole time is going to be, and we talked about a 29.0. I think it's going to be quick. I'm not going to be surprised if Paris comes out with a stonker and even puts in a 28.8. I am expecting one driver to pull out a belter of a lap and get into those 28s.
In F1 Esports Q1 at Shanghai, Daniel Moreno came in 20th with a 128.814. Can any of these drivers here today beat that? Can any of them prove that they are esports caliber? Looking forward to seeing if any of them do. And my money is going to be on Valu. He impressed me so much with how much faster he was than everyone in Q1 that I just think he's got it in the bag here for Q3. We'll have to see whether he's got the consistency to bring that level of lap time once again and even up his game that little bit more. But for me, the Finn is the one who I think is most likely to take pole right now.
Yeah, I think Valu definitely is one of the most solid shouts you could go with. But I'm just going to say Q1, a lot of sandbagging could be happening. Nobody wanting to give away all of their pace. They just want to put in a good lap that they know would get them to Q2. That's all I'm going to say, because to be honest, I think any of those top 4 drivers could take the pole tonight. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's such a nice thing when you get to say that, right? When you get to say, we don't know who's going to take pole. It could be any one of a number of these drivers here right now. We could even see Luppy and Wheeze trying to challenge right up at the top, though I don't think it will be the case for them, but we'll have to wait and see. Iceman still really yet to show himself, really yet to prove himself in this qualifying session right now, and he will desperately want to show that he is the reigning champion for a reason. And just because we've got these super fast drivers arriving in Premier X this season, Iceman should not fall off the radar here, and he needs to prove it right now here in China if he wants to make that podium that he was talking about before the race. Through turn 6 we go now, on board with our reigning champion in the Haas, and that looked pretty nice. Neat and tidy into turn 7, using all the road on the entry. That is perfect through there. And turn 8 we go, using a bit more of the road on the inside than there actually is, maybe touching the grass just a little bit. And he is the first driver I've seen, I think, to meet the apex of turn 9 through turn 10 as well. That all looks so nice.
Yeah, nice and late on the brakes. They're down into 11 and 12. Look at the rear rotation. It's so slippery on the exit of turn 11, but Iceman seems to keep it under control, and the exit onto the back straight is beautiful. And to be honest, Jacob, I actually somewhat disagree with you. I think Iceman proved himself. He was right up there with the big boys on that medium set of tires. He qualified in Q2 on mediums. What can he do on the softs? Here in Q3, he nails the hairpin. This is looking to be an absolute belter.
I mean, whether this is going to be fast enough for the top of the order, we don't know. But I think this is about as fast as Iceman can go, as it's a 1:29.495. So we'd expect the pole time to be a little bit faster than that. But judging by the lines and judging by how every corner looked, that looked like the maximum that we can expect from Iceman. Maybe he's leaving a little bit on the table here or there, but the lines all look really, really solid as Rainbow goes just a smidgen faster with a 129.461 in the Mercedes. Racebug disappointing on a 131.1. That's not really a competitive lap time from the Portuguese driver, and he'll be hoping to improve on that as Wheeze goes faster on a 129.4. And I did say maybe he's a bit of a dark horse to contend right at the top of the order. Vexit invalidating in the final corner there. Here is his teammate, interim teammate for today, as Vexit is only standing in as a reserve, of course, but Dougie Falcons coming up towards the hem.
Yeah, and Vexit, he did a 29.0, so he's right on that cusp of what we said would be the pole time. He has the pace, he just needs to hook up another lap. What can Dougie do in the other Ferrari? Does he invalidate? No, he doesn't, but it looks a little bit squirrely.
129.2 from Dougie Falcons in the Ferrari. It's not the fastest lap time we've seen today. That still rests in the hands of Valu and that 129.170 that we saw in the opening qualifying session of the day. Paris Burel up towards the final corner, running so wide on the exit, but just not too wide. And it's a 129.101. The bar has finally been raised since what Valu was able to do in Q1. But he is out there at the moment, and he'll be looking to try and take that mantle back, as Paris currently sitting on provisional pole, a 10th clear of Dougie Falcons, and then a couple of tenths down to Wheeze Racing. What can Calcifer do to involve himself in that decision? The Estonian up towards the line, it's only third. Puts himself halfway between Wheeze and Dougie on a 129.3.
Yeah, and I just wonder, with a lot of these drivers, did they use an old set of softs? Because quite a few of these drivers, they had to use a set of soft tyres in Q2. And I think from Calcifer down, really, they're all on old set of soft tyres. I think Paris had a fresh set, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's still another 2 tenths to come from everyone else. This qualifying battle still has a way to go, and don't discount out Valu and Vexit. We saw Vexit do a 29.0. If he can hook up a lap again on a new set of soft tyres, he might make it into the 28s.
Let's see what Valu's doing right now as he rounds the final corner. The Finnish driver coming up towards the line. Where's this going to put him? It's a 128.869. It's not quite beating Daniel Moreno's time from F1 Esports, but boy is it close. And there's still another attempt left to go. Valu, my pick for pole, looking good right now.
Valu might very well take a pole. He's taking my prediction, isn't he, of AlphaTauri finishing below Williams, and he is slapping it pretty hard.
Yeah, for sure. That is a big statement right there from Valu, even bigger than the statement he had in Q1. Into the 28s for the first time today, and he's not even that close to being in the 29s. He's got a tenth and a half's worth of buffer there before you get into the low 29s. So definitely comfortably faster than we've seen from anyone else. But as you said, Vex, it did look like he was potentially able to challenge if he didn't invalidate that first attempt. Now, who's on an outlap right now? We see Rainbow and Iceman looking to get back out there as soon as possible to try and improve their standings, both on 26.4s for now, in 6th and 7th. I think Iceman wouldn't be too unhappy with... While Rainbow would want to be a little bit higher up, perhaps.
Yeah, he definitely will want to be higher up, especially because Vexit has another lap. And I quickly want to mention this before Iceman starts his lap, but because Vexit hasn't set a time, I'd be interested to see how he approaches this next time. Does he go all guns blazing, 110% and risk invalidating another lap? Or does he play it a little bit safe and go for a banker time? You know, say, okay, I won't do a 29.0, I'll just take the 29.3 and see where that puts me. But we'll have to wait and see, because right now, Iceman's about to start his flying lap.
Here we go then, Iceman on board with the reigning champion in the Haas as we were earlier on. And now into turn 1 we go, taking the medium line through there, not taking the Calcifer line up the inside. Into turn 3 we go, very tight to the apex there, no troubles with traction at all as he gets the power planted on the way down towards turns 5 and now 6. Into the braking zone we go. You want to kiss the apex just enough, and leaving a tiny little bit of track on the left-hand side, but nothing that will have cost him any time whatsoever through turn 7. It all looked good once again, but it looked good last time as well for Iceman, and it wasn't quite fast enough to get him to the very top of the order. Through turn 8, he was a little bit wider than last time around, and I wonder if he'll actually find a bit more time by not going on the grass through there, braking nice and late into turn 11, getting just the right amount of curb there. And that was the one corner he struggled on last time. He clunked the curb a little bit and almost lost the rear through there. That can lose you some time. Now into the long back straight here. It'll look very good through turn 13 as it did last time around as well. And up towards the hairpin. Why don't you finish this one off?
Yeah, so Iceman is already a 10th up after Sector 2. This is going to be quick. Does he outbrake himself? Maybe ever so slightly, but you can run wide on the exit. The back end looks squirrely, but is it just as Iceman desires? So through the final corner, gets a perfect amount of curb, and crucially, he doesn't invalidate across the line. 29-2 for Iceman, and that is a provisional P4 for the Macedonian.
And that's going to be frustrating because he made that mistake in the final corner there. He got a bit of a swapper on. It only cost him maybe half a tenth, maybe a tenth. But that could have been the difference between being ahead of Dougie Falcons and being behind. Iceman will now try and hotfoot it back to the pits, but I'm not sure he's going to have enough time to set another flying lap in this session. He's trying his hardest by taking the alternate track here to try and get back into the pits. A little bit naughty from the Macedonian, but no one there around that section of track, so he's not really getting in anyone's way, at least. No one out there on a flying lap, but everyone is out of the pits except for Calcifer in the Williams, doing the opposite to what his teammate Racebug has been doing and waiting till last to go out now, as I think that's Luppy starting a flying lap in the racing point and going in towards turn 1. So why don't we take a look at what the Dutchman can do in the pink car here. Very nice through 3. Actually running wider on the exit of 3 than we saw from Iceman. A very different philosophy on how you get the power down on the exit of turn 3. I wonder which is going to be faster as we head up towards turn 6. And Luppy already losing a lot of time. He's already backed out of it, in fact. So Luppy, under pressure already, must have made a mistake in turn 1. And he has one more chance.
He has one more chance. He should be able to get around in time to start a new lap, even if he takes this lap easy. And one of the Williams is now starting a new hot lap. Is that Racebug? It is indeed.
See what he can do into turn 1. He wants to be a bit smoother than whatever happened to Luppy, that's for sure. Running actually quite wide through turn 1. That's wider line than we've seen pretty much anyone else take thus far this qualifying session. And I think that might have lost him a little bit of time through there. I don't think he would have wanted to be out there. I think the understeer would have simply taken him there. As now in towards turn 6 we go. The first split, he's up 3/10. But that's not really enough right now, as he's currently 9/10 off the back of the next fastest driver, who is Luppy, and then there's a significant chunk up to the rest of them as well. So Racebug will need a hearty improvement on this lap, as now we cut to Vexit in the Ferrari, who's a potential pole challenger here, the 1:29.0 that he could have set if he hadn't invalidated his previous lap in the final corner. Looking good through Sector 1 for the time being. There's yellows in Sector 3, but I think that's just someone slowing down to get ready to start their final flying lap of the session. Iceman will not be able to improve, but he is the only one who will not be able to improve, as the rest of the drivers are now down to their final chance here in Q3.
And just look at the commitment that Vexit is taking. I asked, is he going to go 110%? I think he is, because he is throwing the car into every corner right now. It looks clean, it looks delicate, but crucially it looks fast. This might just be enough to challenge Value for that provisional pole spot. Let's see what Vexit can do as he makes his way down the back straight.
Racebug hasn't been able to improve by very much, only a 1:29.8 for the Portuguese driver, so he's going to be in P8 at best. If Luppy and Vexit manage to go faster, he's going to be falling down. Here is Vexit up towards the line, doesn't invalidate through the final corner this time around, and what's it going to be? Oh, it's so close. It's a 1:28.936, but it's not quite enough to challenge Value. That's Paris into the pits in the McLaren, so he's not going to be starting any higher than 3rd, and now 4th as Dougie Falcons makes himself the 3rd driver to make it into the 1:28s, and Rainbow does the same. 3 drivers on a 1:28.9, but none of them can quite get up to Value, who wasn't able to improve on his own lap time either. Calcifer running wide through turn 14. This might just have blown it for the Estonian. Luppy across the line. It's only 6th for the Dutchman in the racing point, and now Calcifer will be the final one, and it's only 5th for our 4th seed driver, and Calcifer going to be coming home in 5th in the end. Couldn't quite challenge at the very top of the order. Valu, my pick for pole, takes it.
Well, Jacob, that was an insane prediction from you. I mean, Valu takes pole, but you want to know something that's a little bit more insane, as we hope that our producer does not leave the online session. But did you see the gap from 2nd all the way down to 5th? I think it was about 400ths of a second. There you go. 600ths from 2nd all the way down to 6th. That is incredible.
Really, really tight stuff. Look at that top 4, all within 1/10 of a second. You love to see it. That's the sort of gaps you see in F1 esports, and these drivers are not far away from that. Valu's time ultimately would have been the slowest on the grid for F1 esports, but it would not have looked out of place with that 1:28.869. What a time that is. And Vexit standing in the Ferrari, last minute really coming in, or maybe not quite last minute. He's known for a couple of days, but still not a regular member of the league, only a reserve for now. And yet he goes into 2nd in his very first qualifying session.
And don't forget, Paris had to abort his lap. He might have been able to go a bit quicker. And Ulas, he was out, remember? So he's not even in Q3. So it could have been another driver to make this even closer. But I hope it can stay like this throughout the entire season, because this is going to be fantastic as we now get ready to jump into the race. Jacob, we tend to ask, what do we think each other's top 3 are going to be? Do you still stand by Valu? Do you think he can convert his quali pace to race pace?
So that's what I don't know, right? We know he's so good at time trials. And occasionally you get the guys who are really good at time trials and they can't quite string it together in the race. Maybe they can't hold on to the tires, or maybe they just don't have the consistency. But Valu did look a bit of just the tiniest little cut above. Of course, he didn't improve on his 2nd lap time. We don't know if he invalidated or what, but he didn't manage to improve. So maybe he's sort of reached his peak. And there are a lot of drivers similarly at that sort of peak as well. So we'll have to wait and see what they're going to do as we enter the formation lap now. Vexit might well be a good shout for the win even. Anyone in the top 6 of this race could easily win. And then you've got Ulash, who will be starting in 14th. I don't think he can make it. I think the caliber at the very top is too much for Ulash to be able to make it from 14th. But, you know, he's definitely going to be on front-running pace for the majority of the race.
I'm going to go with, maybe it's a bit of a shout, this top 3, but I think it's a little bit out there. I'm going to go Vexit, Paris Burrell, and Valu for my top 3.
Okay, interesting. Paris Burrell making it up from 6th into 2nd. I could definitely see a universe in which that happens. You noticed I bought myself some time to think about it some more there, as AJ and Maverick have done the bad thing and have disqualified themselves from the formation map. They will be allowed to participate in the race, don't worry. I'm going to stick with Valu for first. I reckon I've had faith in him for pole, and it was the right thing to do. I'm going to have faith in him for the race as well. I'm going to have the Finnish driver taking it from pole. I'm going to have Dougie Falcons in 2nd and Paris in 3rd.
Okay, I can see that. So you don't have faith in the Englishman. You don't have faith in my boy Vexit.
Well, I think Vexit perhaps showed a bit of a tendency to invalidate laps. And I'm wondering if time penalties are going to come into play for him.
Interesting. Also, if our production can highlight the tires that everyone will be starting on, because I think there are 3 or so. Yeah, 3. Luppy, Weiss, and Racebug. Watch for these 3 to be dropping down the order after about lap 3 or 4. That's when I'm expecting the crossover point to come through and the mediums to get quicker than the soft tires. Medium tire runners, I'm expecting them to pit. Actually, probably about lap of 14. I think they can take the mediums quite a fair way here at Shanghai. But don't be surprised if they pit lap 12, lap 30.
Yeah, Ulash, Luca, Chegg Fried Rice, all on those hard tires as well. So Ulash looking to try and do something different, knows if he goes on the same tires as the front runners, that he won't have any hope of besting them. So maybe, just maybe, if a safety car comes out at the right time and he starts on the hards, he might be able to cheat a pit stop and get himself in the conversation at the top of the standings. I'm sure that's what he is thinking in that Red Bull. Luca in 15th, thinking a similar thing, though I don't think the Croatian driver quite has the same level of pace as Ulash. As you see the drivers now lining up here on the grid for the first time in Premier X Season 2. Who is that that's coming through the order there? I think that's one of the Hasses. So that might be Luca. Or no, it's Iceman finding his way onto 8th on the grid. As now the lights will come on here for the drivers. And we'll wait for them to go out here for the first time they're going to go out, and then wait for them to go out for the drivers. A long hold here before we get underway. It's a terrible start for Paris Burel, who's already falling down the order. Meanwhile, out at the front, Valu has had a clean getaway and will lead into turn one. It's Vexit from Dougie Falcons and then Rainbow in fourth. Calcifer staying true in fifth for the time being, and Paris, he's in 14th right now. Out at the very front, it's the top four still leading the way. Luppy trying to do something on those soft tires as he makes his way past Calcifer, but now Calcifer fighting back through turn 5. Luppy thinking about diving it up the inside into turn 6 as Calcifer sent it up the inside of Rainbow as well. That was a huge collision back there as that was Ulash going flying into the side of someone, and Ulash down to the very back of the order. He was out of control in turn 6.
And I'm not quite sure who he collected, but nobody else has really dropped down the order. Paris is now down to P17. Paris and Ulas, our top 2 power ranking picks, all the way at the bottom. This is heartbreaking for them as that's a Renault having a little look at Calcifer down the inside into turn 11, but he won't be able to pull anything through just yet. Valu still leads from Vexit and Dougie Falcons as the Ferrari pair having a great start to their FXR Season 2 campaign.
It seems like tragedy has struck for Paris Burel. He's not in control of his car. The bug that sometimes doesn't allow you to take control of your car at the start of the race has come around and it's affected Paris Burel. There's nothing we can do about this. It's just an issue with the game right now. And that is so sad to see, because Paris absolutely would have been fighting for the very top spot in this race, no doubt about it. There's battling going on further down as Ruben is making up for a very poor qualifying, trying to battle with AJ for P13 at the moment. He's had a good start, and AJ falling down the order as he heads straight into the pits in the Alfa Romeo, so he's going to be going for a front wing change, no doubt about it. Kenners, by the way, what a start he's had, up from 16th, I believe, on the grid to 11th on those medium tires.
Yeah, a great start coming through from Kenners, really proving us wrong with our predictions, and I think AJ into the pits, front wing damage, was he the one who got collected by Ulas right here, down into a turn 6, maybe? But take a look at Weiss. He is fast and he is right on the back of Calcifer, and this might be our first actual battle of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, well, first actual battle outside of lap 1 battles, of course. Luppy and Weiss on those faster soft tyres. They are the faster tyres for now, but they won't be for that much longer. As it was actually Luppy who started furthest up of the guys on the soft tyres, but Weiss has managed to make his way past his not compatriot. They are a Dutchman and a German who have similar ideas about what they are. Deutsch, Dutch, you know, all comes from the same place. But nevertheless, it is Weiss leading the way, the German, in the all-German Renault team, who is currently chasing Calcifer. Calcifer still well within slipstream range of Rainbow, though, so that's going to provide him a little bit of safety and insurance from the cars behind him. Once DRS comes on, if he can stick within 1 second of them. Oh, yeah, Chegg
through the right-hander.
Spun on the exit of turn 13 there, and he's going to fall down to the very back. It's often a struggle to make those hard tyres work, as A2 UK and Iceman are battling over 8th position. Iceman looking to try and retain 8th position for now, as Valu goes and sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:34.1, and that'll be the DRS enabled.
Yeah, and Lucas dropped behind Air Kenners as well, really
Ruben
struggling to get those hard switched on, and Ruben, he's had a spin through the final corner, and I've also got good news as well, because I think Paris Burel has finally regained control of his car. I'm keeping an eye on the gap between himself and Max, and it is dropping, so I don't think that is a ghosting car, because the ghosts are set to 90 AI.
Yeah, so I think Paris Burel, thankfully back in control of his car. He can put on a superhero race now. He's got the opportunity to see his name in lights, but maybe not in the way that he would like, as Valu is looking to do that right now. Already a second clear of Vexit. If he can break DRS to the Ferraris behind, that could be critical. At some point, Vexit might be thinking about letting Dougie Falcons go past if he can't get back into DRS range of Valu as well. We yet to see just how much these teammates are going to work together in these sorts of scenarios, but Dougie doesn't exactly look like he's challenging the rear end of his teammate either. So at the moment, it's looking really nice for Valu right now, as long as he can maintain that 1.1 second gap and maybe even start to improve on it.
Yeah, it's so crucial that Valu has pulled out over a second. And now this means that Vexit, he's got Dougie all over the back of him. And I do wonder how the Ferraris will approach this as A2 looking for a move on the Haas.
Yeah, A2UK trying to go around the outside of Iceman. These guys have been battling for quite a while thus far this race, and he keeps himself in it around the outside. This will be the inside for turn 16, but sweeping back around the outside is Iceman. He runs wide on the exit. That will pick him up at least a warning as Ulash picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. I think that might even be his second of the race down there in 18th, so it is a very, very bad day for the Turkish driver indeed.
Yeah, Ulas's day is going from bad to worse, but A2 all over the back of Iceman. Don't forget, these two are on the same compound of tyres. Just that A2 UK, his tyres are fresher. He got to start on a fresh set of tyres, starting from down in P12, I think it was. Iceman, he's had to start on the medium tyres that he started the race on. So in terms of strategy, A2 has the advantage.
Kenna's starting to fall back down the order now after a really promising opening lap as Luca has made his way past him on the hard tyres, and now Maverick challenging him as well further down the order. We see A2 UK running pretty wide through turn 8. That's going to lose him a little bit of time in his battle with Iceman as Ulash sets the fastest lap of the race, showing what could have been if he'd had a clean qualifying and then a clean start to the race, but he emphatically had neither of those things, starting in 15th and then only going backwards after that horrific incident on the first lap, where he was just going so much faster than he needs to be into turn 6. I wonder what happened to him in there, and I'm sure there's going to be a few words in the stewards probably said about that one. Racebug falling well away from the rest of the top 10 now, even though he's on those soft tyres. Probably starting to feel the pain of that set of tyres right now as Paris Burel has climbed back up to the back of the pack. It was 3 seconds a couple of laps ago, and now it's less than a tenth as he's looking to go side by side with Max. As further ahead, Maverick's trying to battle with Kenners as well. Around the outside goes the McLaren, but there is still Max on the inside. The Division 1 driver from last season is no slouch, but I think Paris will have the measure of him here into the final corner, and he will claim P14. Maverick gets past Kenners, and further up the order, Weeze and Calcifer are battling.
Yeah, and Weeze closing in on Calcifer. I think they were neck and neck because I just saw them switch around. Calcifer still holding on to P5, and it's so crucial that Calcifer stays ahead because this is the point now where those soft tyres are going to be dropping, and they're side by side into turn 6.
Ooh, not enough space around the outside there for Weeze to get the power down because he was on the curbing, and you can't lay down the traction there as well as you would like, and as a result, forced to submit back down into P6 for now. Luppy will be looking at this with glee as well, as he'll want to get involved with the fighting, no doubt about it. Paris Burel has already managed to clear Kenners over the course of this lap, and he's only been behind him for half a lap. So that is Weeze almost losing it entirely out of turn 10. I think he avoided picking up front wing damage, but he loses a significant amount of time in a couple of places as he slots back in between A2 UK and Iceman, but with grass on the tyres, he's struggling for grip, and now A2 UK can look to try and out-drag him down the straight, as he'll undoubtedly get a better exit through turn 13.
Yeah, Weeze's tyres are completely overheated. He did a good job to keep it out of the wall, but he's not going to be able to keep it in the top 8 because he drops down to P9, and now Weeze is in a terrible spot as Paris is looking for another move.
Here comes Paris up the inside of Maverick, as you were mentioning, and Paris showing the pace that he does have now that he's back in control of that McLaren. Two British drivers battling out there, and it's Paris Burel who takes advantage. Weeze already into the pits, so maybe he did pick up front wing damage, or maybe he's just had enough of those soft tyres, which did not treat him. But now Maverick back around the outside of Paris, so Paris not having it all his own way here, even though he's our first seed driver. And Maverick, I think we seeded down in 14th or 13th. Unless I'm very much mistaken. So, a bit of a mismatch in terms of the seedings, but Maverick holding his own in this battle for now, though he did struggle a little bit on the exit of turn 3 there, but not enough for Paris to think about a move into 6.
Yeah, Maverick with DRS on the start-finish straight, able to get back past Paris, and I'm surprised that Maverick is usually fairly smart when it comes to this, and he would realize that, you know, Paris is quicker than me. I'll just slot in behind and use the DRS from Paris to drag himself closer to Luca and Racebug. But the way things are now, Maverick might actually lose a bit of time behind Paris, and I wonder if that was the correct call from the English.
H2 UK also has struggled to keep within range of Iceman because of Weeze coming back on the track. Where he hindered A2 UK quite a lot. Weeze did nothing wrong there, but it just worked out really badly for the Alfa Romeo driver, who's no longer anywhere near the Haas up ahead. The two Ferrari engine cars now have 2 seconds of gap between them. Here is Paris Burel, who has a lot less than that between himself and Maverick, and in fact, you can flip the gap on its head as Paris Burel makes his way past into the braking zone. Further up, Luca and Racebug battling. Luca's hard tyres now outstripping the softs of Racebug's Williams, and Luka, the Croatian driver, up into the top 10 after his relatively disappointing qualifying. Both of the remaining soft runners, Luppy and Racebug, into the pits.
Yep, into the pits they will go. Hard tires now to take them to the end of the race. Luka up to P8, and don't forget he's on the alternate strategy. Luka might be within a shout for a top 6 finish just from the alternate strategy alone. And right now it's a 4-way battle for the lead. Valu's in a bit of no man's land, and Calcifer 3 seconds behind Rainbow after the amount of battling he had to do against Reese on those soft tires.
This will be interesting now to see what Paris Burel can do here. Coming up against a hard tire runner car up ahead in the form of Luka. At some point, these medium tires are going to be getting a little bit slower than the hards. I don't think it will have been quite yet, but Paris will want to make his way past Luka sooner rather than later before it gets to that changeover point and the advantage falls back into the hands of the Croatian and the Haas. As Paris struggling on the exit of turn 10, he might have just got out of the throttle enough to avoid picking up a warning. We'll have to wait and see whether he picks up any penalties later on into the race. It's only Ulash who has a penalty, as we are 7 laps into the race now, so that's good running from the majority of these guys, keeping it cleaner than perhaps some of them were in qualifying. But look, Luka seemed to have a much better run on the exit of turn 13. Paris going to be struggling to get alongside before the braking zone here, but he has so much overspeed right now, not even an overtake, as around the outside we go, and it looks like Paris has got the move done. Nothing Luka could do on the inside on those hard tires.
Yeah, but Luka will have a DRS on the start-finish straight, although on those hard tires, will he be able to find the traction? No, he runs completely wide, and he picks himself up a time penalty as well. Now, Paris, he's up to P8, he's 3.5 seconds behind A2, and then it's another 2 seconds to Iceman. If Paris has a mega stint, he could catch up to the back of Calcifer and go for a top 5 finish, which would be a crazy recovery driver from Mr. Burrell.
Absolutely it would. There's quite a lot of gaps between himself and then the next few cars. A 3-second gap up to A2 UK, another 2 seconds from A2 UK to Iceman, and then more like 4 seconds between Iceman and Calcifer, who himself is 3 seconds behind Rainbow. So, you know, it's all the big gaps that are going to have to be surmounted here by Paris if he wants to get up towards the podium. But if anyone can do it, it's probably him. Right now, though, at the very front, let's check back in with those guys, as Valu leading now by 2.5 seconds from Vexit, who cannot live with the pace of the AlphaTauri at this stage of the race. Dougie, Falcons, and Rainbow all over the back of him, but no team play in the Ferrari, not letting Dougie through, even though it does seem like the British driver, or both of them are British, but the regular driver in the Ferrari is the faster of the two right now here in Shanghai.
Yeah, it does seem that way, and we question, you know, was Valu a one-lap wonder? Was he the time trial sweat? Well, he may very well be, but he's still a race sweat as well because he is off flying. And now Dougie might just have a look at Vexit, who didn't have the best of runs through the final corner, but it will look like the Ferraris hold station for now. And I do wonder, are they in communication with each other? Do they know exactly what they're doing? Are they letting Dougie just save up ERS so that once he does get past, he can power on and try to catch up to Valu?
Yeah, interesting here, as we're seeing Valu a lot closer to them. Is this real? What happened here? The AlphaTauri all of a sudden is only just ahead of Vexit. I'm not sure what just happened there. It seemed like the car just teleported narrowly in front of the Ferrari, so some kind of weird bug or something going on there, I think. But Vexit is now so close behind Valu, and that has reignited the battle for the lead of this race. Not very fair on Valu, if my eyes didn't deceive me there. Maybe he just lost it on the exit of turn 3, but I did not see that if that was the case. And now it's Valu narrowly from Vexit. Dougie, Falcons, and Rainbow. Dougie has a run on his interim teammate here, but still can't make it past. And Vexit, considering he's only a reserve in the Ferrari team, there's probably not going to be that much teamwork going on between him and his quote-unquote teammate. Vexit is just in this for himself.
Yeah, Vexit is indeed, and he's got DRS as well from Valu. The smart thing, if they were playing as the team game, would be for Vexit to let Dougie through, because Dougie, I guarantee you, he's got more ERS, and Dougie's going to look for the move, but he's just not laid enough on the brakes, as Vexit actually outbrakes himself slightly.
Yeah, runs a little bit deep, but I don't think it's going to compromise him enough. And he will be able to hold on to the position into the final corner as Dougie decides he's had enough of following the reserve and head straight into the pits to get rid of those medium tires.
This is a very early stop to come through from Dougie, but he might just be able to pull off the undercut. In fact, I think he will. The question is, he's going to have 3, maybe 4 lap older, harder tires than the likes of Valu and Vexit. and I wonder if that will come back to bite him in the final stages of the race.
We'll have to wait and see. And with that issue for Value out at the front, it opens the doors for those who wanted to try and undercut him. The gap was getting too big to think about the undercut, but now Dougie recognized that the opportunity is there and has immediately pulled the trigger. Iceman came into the pits as well. He had been running in 6th place, I believe, before coming in. Now out down in 13th, way behind Luppy, who he was following before coming in. And Luppy has already also gone on to those hard tires. So it's Dougie, Luppy, and Iceman of the ones who have pit currently in 11th, 12th, and 13th. They're already right up to the back of Kenner's, or at least Dougie is, in the Ferrari. And he'll want to dispatch the Red Bull driver as quickly as he possibly can. Trouble is, though, that Kenner's is within DRS range of Max. So, you know, it's not going to be so easy to pass this Red Bull as it might usually be for Dougie Falcons. He needs to get past both of these guys, and then he has 7 seconds worth of clean air to enjoy. He's already looking to try and make the move. That's a bit optimistic, Dougie. Be careful as, Kenner's almost losing it on the exit of 11. Frightened into the mistake in the end, and as a result, Dougie will make his way past. They do both lose a little bit of time to Max up ahead, but I'm sure Dougie will eat straight into that.
Yeah, he will, but who got DRS? Crucially, it was a Dougie. Kenner's will not be happy, but Dougie knows that he needs to get the move done, and he needed to get it done quickly. He went down the inside. I think Kenner's braked a little bit later than he would have usually, and that caught out Dougie. And now, Calcifer, Vexit, Luca, they're all into the pits. Sorry, not Luca. Rainbow are into the pits. Kenner's picks up a 3-second time penalty. Where did they feed out? As that's the Red Bull. Kenner's running super wide. Where does Dougie come out relative? He'll be ahead of Calcifer, but he's going to be behind Vexit, and the undercut has not paid off for the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, this is the trouble. He was battling with Kenner's and he was stuck behind Max, and he's just not been able to get the undercut that he would have liked. AJ picking up a 3-second time penalty as he looks like he's run into some issues somewhere along the course of this race, down in P17 at the moment, so he's going to be disappointed with that. Max and Dougie Falcons battling. Dougie needs to get past Max as quick as possible, but the German does not feel like conceding as he'll send it back up the inside of turn 6 through towards turn 7. Now we go, and it is the Ferrari who has track position in the end. Rainbow needs to now do exactly what Dougie needs to do, the Dougie, in fact, and try and get past the Renault as quick as possible. Vexit has that 1.6 second gap. If he wants to prove that he wasn't holding his teammate up in that opening stint, now is the time to do so by keeping him outside of DRS range.
Precisely so, but the bigger thing for Vexit is he needs to nail this outlap. He needs to put in the outlap of his life, because Value is going to be pitting in this lap. You can... Oh, that's a big moment from Max. Rainbow with cat-like reflexes somehow dodges. That was incredible. And Max, has he got terminal damage? No, he's facing the wrong way. He spins the car around. That was a heart-in-a-mouth moment right there.
I want to just say... Rainbow, that was unbelievably good driving there to hold that. You're at such high speed and you have to veer to the left so sharply. It's a miracle he didn't even spin out himself, let alone the fact that he managed to have the reaction time to avoid that. The Lithuanian should take a bow for that one. He's not going to win the race necessarily because of that sort of move, but that sort of move keeps you in the race. So now he's only just outside of DRS range of Dougie. So he didn't even lose that much time doing that. So really incredible stuff from Rainbow, who will now try and get back within DRS range of the Ferraris up ahead. And Vexit does actually look like he has the pace to start dropping Dougie Falcons right now, as Value has come into the pits and did just about retain the lead from Vexit. So the AlphaTauri will still be in the de facto race lead once Paris Burel, Luca, and Maverick come into the pits. Value probably going to be looking forward to catching up to the back of Maverick as well, as I doubt he's going to have any trouble navigating past his teammate in the AlphaTauri team. However, we might well see Maverick coming into the pits before that becomes a factor.
Yeah, that might very well be the case. In fact, they might be talking to each other right now, and Value might be saying, all right, Maverick, I'm going to get past you. You're going to hold up Vexit for me so I can pull over a second ahead. There are a variety of different strategies available to the AlphaTauris right now. But don't discount Luca out of this race for some big points. Remember, he's on the alternate strategy, and Paris Burel, we know he is quick, and he has been absolutely robbed of a chance for the race win with that incident at the start of the race. He's in the pits now. Let's see where he will feed at.
Both him and Maverick heading into the pits, so it's now Luca who's going to be leading the way, also on hard tyres, but he's of course yet to make his pit stop. Paris Burel needs to get... where's he looking to come out? He's looking to come out in and around Wheeze and Iceman right now. He wants to be ahead of Wheeze Racing. I think that is That's the sort of success criteria right now. But Weeze has had 6 laps on those hard tires to try and undercut the McLaren, and indeed, Paris will just fall behind the Renault. He's going to be outside by side with A2 UK by the look of things into turn 1. We might maybe want to take a look at that as A2 UK trying to battle around the outside, but will cede the position and allow Paris BRL into P11. So now the comeback drive truly is on for the McLaren. He's done a lot of work in the first sector or first segment of the race, but he allowed himself to get undercut, opted to go late onto the hard tires, and needs to make that decision pay right now.
Yeah, also keep an eye on Dougie Falcons and Rainbow, because Dougie Falcons is over almost 2 seconds behind his teammate, and Rainbow is within a second. Calcifer, that gap between Calcifer and Rainbow was over 2 seconds at one point, but during the transition phase from mediums to hards, Calcifer has closed in, so we've got a bit of a three-way battle for what will become P3 and the final podium spot of the race here at Shanghai.
Yeah, Rainbow has managed to get back within DRS range of Dougie Falcons as well, who himself, the gap between him and Vexit standing in as his teammate, that's stagnating. It's even getting slightly bigger right now. It was 1.6 when everything was said and done with all the battling, and now it's up to 1.7, so it's not going the way that Dougie Falcons would want it to go and we would have expected it to go. Based on how it looked in the opening stint, it looked like Dougie absolutely had the pace over his teammate, but not the case on these hard tires right now, as Paris actually made a mistake into turn 14 there and almost let A2 UK think about making a move up the inside. Kenner's pitting from 9th. He's had a good race thus far. Going to be the last of the guys that started on the mediums to come into the pits, and he'll strap on a set of hards, which he will enjoy the freshness of all the way to the end of this race.
I think for Paris right now, the objective is a P6. He'll be able to get past Weeze Racing fairly quick, and then he'll be hunting down Iceman and Luppy. And with 14 laps remaining, I don't think he'll be able to catch up to Calcifer and this group that goes all the way to the front of all the way to the lead of the race. If he does, that would be an incredible comeback, but I don't even think Paris himself can pull something like that off. Luca still has to hit, and Value is slowly closing into him, and while they may not be teammates in the same car, they are part of Sidemax Motorsports.
For sure, yeah. So there may well be some camaraderie there. We don't know that for certain, though. And I'm sure that most of them will be feeling that it's every man for himself out there right now. Paris, very close behind Weeze, but has been stuck behind the Renault for about a lap now. Needs to get a move on getting past him if he wants to start closing down Iceman, as the gap between them is only expanding up to 4 seconds now. Paris, I think the best he can hope for in this race is to try and finish ahead of Luppy, provided drivers don't fall off the road, as Max picks up a 3-second time penalty down in 18th. Of course, here comes Paris looking for the move as Luca pits from the lead. Paris trying to get up into 9th. It will become 8th once they go past Luca in the pits, as he makes the move cleanly on Weeze Racing, who doesn't put up too much of a fight in the Renault.
Yeah, however, Paris has to be careful because Weeze has a DRS and Paris hasn't pulled out a massive gap as we make the run down towards the turn 1. Is Paris far enough ahead? Just about. Weeze had a little look and it might have just scared Paris ever so slightly, but Paris is now clear. 3.8 seconds the gap between him and Iceman up ahead in P7, and he has plenty of time to catch him or to close him down.
Tell you what, look at Luca. He's out in 12th on a set of medium tyres. If he gets past Maverick quickly, and I would expect him to do so given the tyre advantage, he can absolutely eat into that gap to A2 UK and Weeze, and here it is already trying to make his way past Maverick. A little bit rude there at the apex perhaps, and Maverick didn't look like he wanted to give the position up that easily, but Luca will force his way through into 11th. And now he's going to be one to watch towards the end of this race. He is going to be the fastest car on track by a long shot right now.
Yeah, and that might also mean that Luca picks up that fastest lap of the race, and don't forget, an extra point goes to whoever picks up fastest lap. Value has already taken those 2 points for claiming pole, but Luca, how far can he go? I'd actually think he can get at least P9, maybe even P8, maybe he could even close up to his Haas teammate and former, or I should say current, FXR champion Iceman.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the sort of upper limits of what we can expect to see from Luca, as A2 UK and Weeze are now battling as well. So Weeze losing a couple of positions in as many laps as the Alfa Romeo makes his way past, and he'll be feeling pretty good about that because he was comfortably behind Weeze in our power rankings. But A2 UK having a really solid race weekend thus far, I got to say.
Yeah, he is indeed. Maverick picks up a time penalty. Weeze will just have to slot in behind A2 for now. Calcifer's dropping back from Rainbow, who is now all over the back of Dougie Falcons. And crucially, Value has also pulled out over a second from Vexit, but I think this is going to be the next key battle. Rainbow on the Ferrari of Dougie.
Yeah, for sure. The gap's all still pretty close out at the front, but they are starting to expand, as you mentioned, between Dougie and Vexit, between Vexit and Value, and between Calcifer and Rainbow. The only one making moves right now is Rainbow, eating into the gap to the Ferrari up ahead, but he's stuck in the dirty air zone right now. And if he doesn't manage to make up a lot of time into turn 11 and then through turns 12 and 13, he's not going to be able to make the overtake this lap on Dougie Falcons, I don't think. Dougie maybe having the slightest little bit of trouble with the traction through turn 13, but not anything that's going to harm him too much. The DRS will not be enough to catch Rainbow up to him by the end of this straight, especially when Rainbow only has 8% remaining in his battery charge right now. So he needs to try and farm up some of that ERS before he can look to try and make a move on Dougie Falcons up ahead. But he wants to do it sooner rather than later, because I'm sure Rainbow will still be having designs on the race win.
Also, sorry to cut you off, but Ulas is going for a move right now on Racebug for P13 on the back straight, and I think Ulas has pulled the move off as well.
Yeah, getting past him before they even get to the braking zone there, allowing him to retake the racing line. Ulash taking 13th for now, but he cannot get to the end on the set of medium tyres that he is currently on, and in fact dives into the pits right then, so Racebug will be thinking, well, why'd you bother passing me, mate? But Weez and A2UK, they're still battling as well, looking to continue their battle. Weez has been side by side with quite, or rather A2UK has been side by side with quite a lot of people through turn 1. They bang wheels pretty aggressively through turn 3 there, but neither one picks up damage, and it is A2UK who has the better run on the exit of that corner using the outside line. And up towards turn 6, the battle will continue. Here we go, deep on the brakes is the Renault, and the switch back from A2UK is beautiful, and he'll have the position for turn 7.
Yeah, but look who's right behind them. Luca's watching all of this unfold, and he is rubbing his hands in glee. The gap is just over a second. In fact, he might get DRS this very lap. The question is, can he find a way past Weez, who has DRS from A2UK?
Yeah, that is a big question right now, Luca. You know, you don't want to come across cars in twos, because especially if they're battling, because the fact that they're battling means you're that much more likely to get involved in any incidents they may have, and if you don't have the lightning reactions of Rainbow, then you might well find yourself losing some front wing elements. And of course, the DRS issue as well. Weez has a slipstream, he has the DRS available, and that makes it so much harder for Luca to get past. Right now, we are seeing Weez challenging A2UK once again, not willing to stop this battle at any moment. He runs wide through turn 14, doesn't open the door quite enough for Luca, though that time around to himself actually struggled under traction on the exit there. Getting a much better run through 16 is Luca, though, on those softer medium tyres. And now it might well be a 3-wide moment into turn 1. Luca very brave up the inside to go for that, but he's up the inside of A2UK and none of them make contact. Now he's managed to take both of them. That is an unbelievable maneuver from Luca. He has the tyre advantage, but that is incredible racecraft right there. And now Weez struggling on the exit of turn 3. His battle with A2UK will continue. The brief blip of the Haas has come and gone, and now they're side by side through 6 yet again. Once again, it's A2UK with the inside line on the exit, but this time it's the Renault with a better run. And now Weez finally getting back past A2UK, but I don't think that's the last we've seen of this battle. And they're still trying to go side by side through turn 8 of all places.
This is absolutely fantastic battling we're seeing right now, Jacob. And Luca, he watched it all unfold. He picked his moment perfectly. He barely lost any time. But don't forget, Weezy has 11 lap of hard tyres. A2UK, he has 6 lap of fresher hards. Once we get to about lap 25, the hards of Weez are going to be dead. So A2, he just needs to bide his time, and he has to wait for the right moment to strike and not hold up Weez Racing, because Maverick is going to be closing these two down.
Yeah, and they're still going to be battling as we go into turn 14 once again, and A2UK once again getting back past the Renault driver. But only for now. This is going to go on to the very end of this race, you have to feel. However, there are other battles hotting up on track as Luca picks up his second 3-second time penalty of the race, I believe that is, currently sitting in P9. So even if he does get past everyone, he's going to lose out due to penalties as Weez gets back past A2UK once again. So I think we can say that, you know, no matter what happens, this is going to continue to happen until one of them falls off the road. And I feel like at some point that's bound to happen as they are still battling on the exit of turn 3 through turn 4. Turn 5, side by side. I bet they're both having a lot of fun right now, at the very least, and getting to practice their racecraft, if nothing more.
To be honest, I think we need to phone up Guinness Book of World Records because they've been side by side through more corners in a single race than any other pair of drivers in the history of motorsport, even more than Casey Stoner and Valentino Rossi at Laguna Seca.
It's turn 8 they're side by side. They're trying to do it turn 9. That's almost impossible as A2 UK almost finds out to his cost. There's Luca off the road up ahead. We had question marks over his consistency, and he's thrown it away on those medium tires. He was pushing so hard. Maybe the frustration of those time penalties he was picking up, maybe setting in a little bit there. He has recovered into P12, so he's not lost too many positions, and there's still good points on the board for him. As A2 UK has just fallen off the road on the exit at turn 13. He's had a big problem, and Wheeze is finally clear of his arch nemesis, Maverick, now battling with A2 UK instead.
Oh no, Jacob, do you remember the old storyline from last season?
Sorry, I got to cut you off there. Let's take a look at Rainbow and Dougie Falcons, please. There was 1/10 between them through turn 1 here. Rainbow has been close behind Dougie Falcons. I've been keeping an eye on that gap, and if he gets a better run through turn 3, he might be able to challenge into turn 6. Looks like, though, it is the Ferrari who gets the better run. So, Milky, you can continue with your story.
Yeah, I was just going to say, remember back to last season, the amount of contact, well, I say contact, but the amount of incidents between A2 UK and Maverick, and will we see a return? Because we know that A2 should have the pace over Reese and should be able to close back down the Renault driver.
Yeah, for sure. There is a bit of a rivalry that's starting to form in Season 1, and it looks like it might well continue here in Season 2 as well, as they're battling over some pretty critical points as well. Maverick will want to get one over on A2 UK and needs to do so sooner rather than later, as he does have a penalty hanging over him, which A2 UK does not have. Ulash, who set the fastest lap last time around, makes his way past Kenners. I'm sure that was a bit of a wave by there. But now 14.5 seconds between Ulash and Racebug, who's had a pretty disappointing race to be down in P13 at this stage. Means that Ulash probably can't hope for anything better than 14th now, sadly for him, as Maverick and A2 UK look like they're battling. Rainbow wasn't close enough to Dougie this time around, and actually Dougie's struggling a lot at this phase of the race as Calcifer is getting interested well within DRS range of Rainbow behind as well. Here's the overtake dump from the Mercedes though as we go up towards turn 1. They're side by side, and Rainbow forces Dougie Falcon to give him space on the inside, and that might well come to the Ferrari driver's cost. He just about keeps his nose alongside for turn 3 and pushes the Mercedes wide on the exit through turn 4. Now Rainbow will have to look towards turn 6 to make the move. He wants the outside. It's the Daniel Ricciardo up towards the inside, but he's got a little bit too deep, and the switchback is lovely. Dougie Falcons keeping his head, keeping his cool, and the dummy does not pay off for Rainbow, who finds himself still stuck in P4 for now. Calcifer looking at this very interested as well.
He is indeed. Paris is closing in onto Iceman, and maybe he'll even have a shout to join up to this trio if they continue battling this hard. Dougie's now 4.5 seconds behind Vexit. It's pretty much guaranteed he'll be value from Vexit to finish this race unless time penalties come in. But this three-way battle is really spicing up, and I tell you something, Rainbow will not be happy with Dougie Falcon. He slammed the door shut into turn 1. There was almost a front wing damage as well. How much longer will this battle continue? Because all three are within a second of each other.
Rainbow so close to Dougie Falcons, but he can't ever make the move into turn 14. It's always into turn 1, interestingly enough, that the Mercedes seems to have the most pace. Maybe he's just better through this final corner than Dougie is able to be, but it looks like it was pretty smooth this time around for the British driver in the Ferrari. So I don't think we'll see the Lithuanian alongside on this lap, at least, as A2 UK and Maverick are battling A2 UK. He is setting world records for the amount of battling done in a single race. Maverick looks to have got the better of him this time around through turn 14. Rainbow so close through turn 3. Can he get the power down better towards turn 6? Yes, but not by enough, I don't think, to continue the battle quite yet. Calcifer does seem like he's just a little bit slower than these two right now, or at least slower than Rainbow. But if the battling goes wrong for the Mercedes driver, I'm sure the Williams could well be slithering up his inside or maybe even his outside.
Yeah, and Calcifer, he's just been sitting behind it so patiently, even over a second behind, and just waiting. And I do wonder how much more ERS he has than the Ferrari and the Mercedes pair ahead of him. Because if he has saved up his ERS, if he has saved up his fuel, he might be in the better situation of all three of them.
Yeah, that is definitely a possibility. 40% ERS in the battery for Calcifer is definitely more than what I've been seeing when we've been on board with Rainbow, in the McLaren up ahead. Rainbow actually getting pretty close to Dougie, but again, not close enough into this braking zone. And this is where you really want to be able to try and make the moves, because if you get it done there, it can be harder to fight back in turn one if you force the other guy to the outside of that hairpin. Rainbow looks like he did have a mildly better run through the final corner there. He will be closing down Dougie again, but still, it's just not quite enough. Dougie is doing a stellar job of holding on to this position right now, and you guessed it, A2UK and Maverick are side by side. Oh, and here's Paris as well, up the inside of Iceman. Paris making moves on his recovery drive here. He needs to get past the Haas right now as Luppy's in close attendance up ahead. So Iceman's been doing a good job to close down the racing point, but right now, his main task is to keep the McLaren behind, and can he do it? On the exit of turn 3, turn 4, now 5. And it is the inside line for Paris Burel, which should give him the advantage here for turn 6. He can look to shut the door on the exit, and he does. Nice driving from the McLaren driver. He makes his way past the reigning champion, and Luppy is going to be quaking in his boots.
Yeah, Luppy is going to be quaking because Paris will be within a second. In fact, Paris will probably get the job done down into turn 14 this lap around. And then he's 5.5 seconds behind Calcifer with about 5.5 laps to go. It might be possible, it just might be possible for Paris to turn this stinker of a race into what could be an awesome comeback drive.
Looks like Max has spun on the final corner there, and that might give an opportunity for Cheg Fried Rice to try and claim anything other than last spot. Of course, there's still more points available down there at the bottom of the order thanks to the scoring system we use here in Formula X Racing. You score points for any position as long as you finish the race. At the moment, it's Valu on course to get 48 points here because he got 2 points for pole position, and you get 46 for winning the race. Luppy running a little bit wide through the final corner there. That'll give Paris Burel just a sniff of maybe a possibility, a tiny bit of blood in the water leaking from the back of that racing point, but at least it's not oil. That would be rather more serious. Luppy struggling a little bit through the first corner, though. Into turns 2 and 3 we go. It looks like Paris has the measure of him. Running wide through the exit of 3 as well is the racing point, but it seems to have given him a pretty good exit, as that might be Max off the road again, and down into last place goes the Division 1 third place finisher from last season. So a disappointing race after a fairly promising, well, a sort of decent qualifying, at least from the Renault driver, but the race has not gone his way.
No, the race has not. Max just not comfortable here at Shanghai, dropping down the order, making sure he gets well out of the way of Lucky, Paris, and Iceman. And we're also seeing Luca. He's really closing in now onto Maverick and A2 UK on those medium tires as well, don't forget.
Yeah, but that mistake he made earlier will have taken something out of those medium tyres. And now 8 laps into that stint, they're going to be starting to get a little bit slower now. And the hard tyres after 10 laps probably going to be in almost a better condition than those mediums. So Luca not going to have it all his own way in that battle. And of course, it's the classic conundrum. They all have DRS. But now, speaking of DRS, it's Paris Burel who's trying to go around the outside. Luppy gets deep on the brakes, and that might just open the door. The gift is given to the McLaren driver, but can he unwrap it? Yes, he can. Into the final corner right now. Luppy might well think about challenging back into turn 1 as he does have the DRS, but I don't think he's close enough to take the position back, and the Dutch driver is shuffled down into 7th, Paris up to 6th.
And Iceman will also be smelling a blood. You can see Luppy ahead. We saw these two pretty much battling at Spa, but at Spa, Iceman didn't need to do the move on track because Luppy had a time penalty. Here at Shanghai, neither driver has a time penalty, and Iceman will need to get the move done on a track. Rainbow and Calcifer still behind Dougie, all still within a second of each other.
I mean, Rainbow has been within half a second of Dougie for the vast majority of this hard tyre stint now. And yet he's only been alongside him once. He's been struggling so much to break that last couple attempts that he needs. And it's this part of the track that I guess he's been struggling in the most, and not being able to make the move into the hairpin, as I think that yellow flag out there is for Max getting lapped by a whole train of cars forming up behind Wheeze Racing right now. Wheeze, A2UK, Maverick, and Luca all very much in close attendance. Rainbow with a decent exit through turn 13, but again, he's not quite close enough, I don't think, and he doesn't have enough ERS to go for the move into the hairpin either. A2UK close behind Wheeze, wants to get past him, but A2UK does have the advantage of being the only car in this battle not to have time penalties to his name.
Yeah, and going back to Dougie versus Rainbow quickly before we come back here, next time, look at the line that Dougie takes coming on to the straight, as I think A2 might be going for the move onto Wheeze on the back straight.
Yeah, looks like the Alfa Romeo driver is doing that indeed. He has the inside line for the hairpin, but he's gone a little bit deep. No! Gets it all slowed down really nicely. That's going to compromise Wheeze's exit as well, as you can't just drive straight into the car ahead. He will still be side by side into 16, but he runs wide and off circuit, doesn't pick up a penalty for it, and actually kept his foot in pretty nicely. It was like Kenners has spun on the exit to the back straight, but now it's Wheeze reclaiming the position, and there is Maverick getting involved with A2UK once again. No contact between them. They're just about keeping it clean, but both of them will be gnashing their teeth at this battle right now. The two rivals battling out on track, and meanwhile further up the order, Rainbow's lost out to Calcifer. The Williams driver is up into 4th as A2UK is shuffled down to 11th. Maverick making his way past him for now. They're so close on track. I want to see what happened to Rainbow though, as I think maybe he tried to make a move on Dougie or made some kind of small mistake, as Calcifer has been able to get past the Lithuanian in the Baltic Brawl.
And Calcifer dropped just over a second behind Dougie. Did he get DRS? Was he within a second? Come the DRS detection point. Does that DRS lap open? Yes, it does. Just over 2 laps remaining. Has a Calcifer waited until the perfect moment to go for the move? I think he might have just about done it as well, Jacob.
And Rainbow will be so frustrated with this. I don't know if he made a mistake or if Calcifer just dumped the ERS somewhere out there on track, but we'll talk about that in a moment, as the battle is still consuming all 4 of these drivers right now. 2 by 2 down the back straight they go. It's Maverick and Wheeze, and it looks like Maverick trying to get that position. Luca trying to get up the inside of A2UK as well. He does so, A2UK falling down to the back of this train, but again, he has the advantage of being the only one without those penalties. Wheeze's tires, by the way, much older than everyone else's there as well. 19 laps on that set of hards, so he has a big disadvantage in this battle, on track at the very least, but that's not going to stop him as he's making his way back past Maverick once again. These guys will not quit right now, and I bet Luca wishes they would, as he just wants to get past them cleanly. 16 seconds up to Iceman, who can probably breathe now in 8th, although he'll want to get past Luppy sooner rather than later, but I don't think he has to worry about these cars behind right now, as Calcifer and Rainbow have closed right back up to Dougie Falcons again, who himself is still falling yet further away from Vexit, who's done a great job in this stint compared to the cars behind, but Valu has been in another league.
Yeah, Valu has been in a league of his own. We haven't even needed to talk about him in the last 10 minutes or so, because the battle for P3 and the battle for P9 is so darn good. Jacob, A2UK, he's on the back of this train, and he doesn't have any time penalties, so he's in a great position as well right now, just keeping an eye on the battle for P3. Still Dougie from Calcifer from Rainbow as they make their way onto the start-finish straight. But what can happen here, as I think I just saw someone lag backwards, but no changes in the positioning just yet, as Luca is really close to Maverick, and Calcifer.
He's up the inside. They make contact there. Dougie tried to shut the door like he did to Rainbow a couple of laps ago and finds his way back up the inside of 2. And now that turns to the outside of 3 and pushed wide. And here comes Rainbow as well. This might be 3 wide up through turn 5 here. Calcifer has the advantage as Dougie is finally dethroned from 3rd and shuffled down to 5th. It's side by side between the Williams and the Mercedes.
The last lap as well.
Rainbow going for the switchback on the final lap of the race here in Shanghai, but he can't quite pull it off, and now Calcifer has the advantage. How much ERS has he managed to maintain? Did he use it all? Trying to get past on the main straight against Dougie Falcons. Can he keep ahead of the very fast Mercedes behind on this final long straight of the race here, as they will be going on to the back straight now? Rainbow needs to try and keep within DRS here And then, of course, he is going to be able to do so. He needs a good exit, and he's got a great exit by the look of things in the Mercedes. He's got a golden opportunity to reclaim that third position that he will feel definitely should have been his here today. As we go down towards the hairpin for the final time, we can't cut to the race leader because this is just too interesting. Rainbow trying to get around the outside. Will they be side by side? Yes, but there's not enough space for Rainbow in the end as Valu gets the fastest lap on the final lap as he takes the win. That is stylish from the Finnish driver. Vexit comes home second, and Calcifer will be the one to take third from Rainbow. From Dougie Falcons in fifth. Paris Burel with an excellent recovery drive up to sixth. It's Luppy holding off Iceman for seventh and eighth. Wheeze and Luca up the inside into 14 now as they go through the final corner. It is going to be Wheeze Racing holding on. A2 UK falling adrift of this battle, but with his lack of penalties, he should still claim ninth position when all is said and done. Luca tumbling down, and there it is, the ninth for A2 UK. Wheeze in 10th, Maverick 11th, and Luca in 12th. Ulash almost got him in the end.
What an incredible race, Jacob. Just quickly going to mention, if anyone hasn't noticed, in the Twitch chat is a poll for driver of the day. I honestly don't know who I'd give it to, but make sure to drop your votes down as quickly as you can. What an incredible race, Jacob. What a way to start season 2 of Formula X Racing.
Absolutely. And I mean, of course, we would have loved a closer battle for the lead, but the battle for third and the battle for ninth more than made up for it. And there were so many battles throughout the whole race as well. Luca given driver of the day by the game. I'm not sure I would agree with that. I think it's got to go to Paris Burel after suffering that heartache on the opening lap. To keep the mental in check and to reclaim sixth position after falling to the very back was incredibly impressive. There are some other candidates as well. Calcifer had a good race from fifth to claim the podium. Really nice tactical stuff at the end. And Valu was just perfect at the front.
Yeah, and Valu, he had the perfect race. Paris, he had the great comeback story. Calcifer left it to the end. Rainbow had a great drive. Even Kenneth, he exceeded our expectations so much to, I think he got P16 in the end. And don't forget as well, you know, Luppy put in a great race. P7. There's so many drivers who had such good races. It was just such a fantastic race, really. There's not really much more to say aside from that, Jacob.
Yeah, really, really, really good stuff. And now let's look and see who's outperformed our expectations. Valu, number one, he's outperformed our expectations. We did not expect him to be this dominant, and we actually seeded him in at fourth when all was said and done, but he showed himself to be an absolute front-running candidate. Luppy has done a good job in seventh as well. But aside from that, it's quite a lot of this is actually oddly similar, eerily similar, dare I say it, to our rather heavily flamed preseason predictions, I must say.
Yeah. I mean, Luppy, Iceman, really close together. I think one of the drivers we significantly underrated was A2 UK.
Mm-hmm.
We seeded him P13. He got P9. Arguably, well, actually, no. I think A2 was quicker than Weeze. If it wasn't for that incident, he should have been able to pull away. Maverick, right where we expected him. The one who has fallen, the driver who has really fallen behind where we thought he should be was Ruben. We thought he'd be P15, and, well, he didn't have the best of races. Same can be said for Ulas, but incidents in the opening lap. But then again, Ulas didn't have the same back drive that we saw Paris Burel able to do. So, you know, is that a sign of the pace difference?
Yeah, I don't know. As we finally get Milky Cam back, and it turns out he's been standing up the whole time and in a suit, which is now really showing me up. So that's nice. But yeah, there you go. Very, very graceful indeed. Yeah, I think in general, this has revealed quite a lot. But there's a lot of question marks still there as well, right? Like, what happens if Ulash doesn't have that first lap incident? And especially if he doesn't mess up in qualifying, what happens then? What happens if Paris is allowed to take control of his car? He could have maybe challenged Valu for the win here today. I think his pace was that solid when in his recovery drive was that impressive. Luca also looked really good for large swathes of this race, starting on the hard tires, going for a different strategy, starting well outside of the top 10. And if it hadn't been for that one incident on the exit of turn 10, he would have been challenging up almost near his teammate come the end of the race, you have to feel.
Yeah, and I think it was a really good drive from Luca. It was just that one mistake that he made, as you mentioned, where he lost the back end. I don't think he would have caught up to Iceman, but it would have been close between the two Haas drivers. But it's great to see that the two Haas drivers are this close in pace. And it's what we said at the start of the show, that the Haas drivers would be those two consistent drives, and would it be enough to bring Haas to the forefront of the Constructors' Championship? And it might very well be, Jake.
Yeah, for sure. It might well prove to be. Haas looking, my prediction for Haas as top of the constructors is looking just that little bit shakier right now. But, you know, I still have faith. I reckon they can bring it back. I reckon if Luca has a cleaner weekend and Iceman continue to pump in results like this and maybe slightly better, I think this was a slightly off weekend from Iceman as well. Let's not forget he finished behind Luppy, which is not something we would have expected from him generally last season, I don't think. So I think there's more to come from Iceman, that is for sure. And I would like to see more.
Speak for yourself, Jacob. I put Luppy ahead of Iceman.
Well, yeah.
You made me put him below. You made me put him below. So I'm going to take that as a win on that front.
Yeah, well, I mean, you are becoming the world's premier Iceman hater, and I wonder if this is just setting us up for some very interesting interviews throughout this season. Yeah, onwards into the season, he might well have some more words to say to you, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, that's going to happen. Either way, he'd have words to say to me at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. I also think I do definitely owe an apology to A2, because we're both in Alfa Romeo, and he's been messaging in the Alfa Romeo private chat that we have on the server saying, Milky, I can't believe you underrated me. You put me P12. I was like, yeah, I don't think you're top 10, mate. It was like, watch me on Friday. And yeah, there you go. I have to hand it to you, A2. Fantastic drive from yourself.
Yeah.
I think I need to I think we have drivers for interviews here, Jacob.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Who are we going to get? All right. Okay. I think okay.
Yeah, we're going to throw it to a quick break, and when we're back, we will be back, of course, because when it's back, we'll be back with our driver interview.
Dancing the stream. Wait, I'm dancing. Okay. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies, we were a little bit muted. We are here for driver interviews with Valu, Vexit, and Calcifer. Valu, you've already answered some of these questions for me, but I guess you can repeat it for our viewers. A solid win for you. How easy was it?
Yeah, I was surprised with my pace. I got out of DRS before it was activated, so it was just pushing more gap after that. But then my game froze and I lost 3 seconds, but I got away after pits.
Jacob did spot that you dropped back, and we presumed that it was an issue with the game because we knew there's no way Valu would make a mistake, and it seems it was an issue with the game. Now, Mr. Vexer, he took P2, but Valu, he's a reserve, so he might not be here next week. Who do you think is going to be your biggest kind of challenger when we do make our way to the next race of the season?
I think Ulas and Paris will be up there. Ulas bottled Q2. He tried to go with the mediums and he invalidated, so he couldn't get good time. And Paris disconnected on formation lap and minus 200 degrees tires, so he can't do anything.
Okay, so the minus 200 degrees kicked in for good old Paris. That's a shame to say the least. Moving on to you, Vexit. Super sub, it seems, might be the best way to describe your performance. P2, are you happy with that?
Very much so. My expectations in before coming to this race was primarily just to enjoy it, see if I could finish somewhere around the top 10, and I think my main target was Rainbow, because from other leagues I know that me and him have pretty similar pace, and yeah, my main goal was to beat him. I succeeded in that, and also got a nice P2 out of it, and also got to meet and race against some very superhuman racers on the F1 games. That was quite nice.
You, for so long, you had Dougie right on your tail, and then he decided to pit a little bit early for hard tires. Were you worried that he was going to pull the undercut off on you?
There's obviously always there's a million scenarios that are flying through your head every single lap, but when I saw that he pitted lap 9, I wasn't too scared that he was going to undercut me, because I still had Valu's DRS at that point, I believe, after his 3-second screen freeze. And what that effectively meant was that I could keep up with whatever Valu's pace was. And yeah, I think Valu's pace on the slightly older mediums was still better than that of Dougie on his new hards. And I think just even still, the mediums were fastest. And yeah, just traffic as well. Quite a few factors that caused him to lose lose that time. But yeah, I wasn't really too scared of it overall.
Moving on to you, Calcifer, P3. For such a while, it seemed that you were out of touch with that battle for P2, which had Vexit, Rainbow, and Dougie. And then all of a sudden, come that final stint, you just seem to find the pace and close up to them.
Yeah, I was struggling at the start on the mediums because I didn't have really much practice and was just trying to get into the rhythm. In the end, the car just came alive and I was able to catch cars in front.
And talk us through that battle that you had, because we missed how you got past Rainbow. We saw your battle with Dougie, but how exactly did you get past Rainbow?
He said that we had little contact in the hairpin, but on my screen I didn't have any, so he lost his rear a bit and I got past.
And then
just
with
the desync
Dougie,
moment.
Oh, pardon. So desync possibly coming into play, but with the Dougie, a bit of an aggressive defensive move from him into turn 1. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think I pushed him quite hard inside, a bit off on the curb, maybe on the grass as well, but he pushed me out same way, so I think we're equal on that one.
Well, thank you for that, Calcifer. And Jacob, I'll throw the questions over for you now.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess quickly to Valu. When that lap time in Q1 that was so much faster than everyone else had gone at that stage, did you feel like at that moment that you could win this race?
Yeah, I was pretty confident after I saw I was so much faster in Q1.
Okay, well, yeah, it was pretty much as expected, I guess. It was a very, very good benchmark lap time indeed. And then, yeah, I guess to vex it is a full-time spot in this league something you're potentially angling for later in this season if you can get it?
Well, I certainly wouldn't mind one. But I don't have any immediate intentions yet. But it was a very enjoyable race, and it's the first time that I've raced with a different format of a full qualifying and then a 50% race. Usually, I'm used to a short qualifying and then 50%. But I'll certainly, if I'm offered the chance to race, then I'll certainly grab it with both hands. Because it was really quite an enjoyable new format, and it was really exciting to just have a little bit of variation with my league racing.
Yeah, no, we definitely like to vary up a few of the rule sets, the point system and the qualifying, give a few little bits of difference here, because there's a lot of leagues out there which are just very, very similar to one another. But we like to do things a little bit different here, and I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it. And then Calcifer, you said that you didn't get much practice for this race today. If you had got the level of practice you would have liked, could you have won this race?
I don't know really. I think it's 50-50 because China is my worst track on this game probably. So yeah,
All right.
I would like to practice.
So does that mean that we can expect great things from you going on to the season? Are we expecting a win next time out?
Don't expect too much.
All right. Well, I think I've tried to mine as much I can out of that one. So, Yousuf, I'll give it back to you.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Jacob. I think it's time for us to wrap things up. And Valu, while he may have got pole, he may have got fast lap, and he may have got the race win, he didn't get driver of the day. That went over to Paris. I voted for Valu. I have a screenshot of it. But Paris gets driver of the day. I feel somewhat deservedly so. It was a great comeback drive from him. And I am very interested to see at Baku next time out if he'll be able to take the challenge to a Valu. But that is all that we have at time for here at Premier X for the opening race of the Formula X Championship. I want to give a quick thank you to everyone who has put in so much effort to make this opening race a success. From Jacob taking over when my internet decided to have some fun, to my internet service providers to making this race more entertaining, and then of course to the likes of Blue Wolf putting out some fantastic graphics for us, and Sam as well for just being an absolute awesome guy. And of course to all of our drivers for consistently putting up with our consistent demands of images to make this show as spectacular as possible. And of course also to Mag as well for having us being part of their fantastic show. On that note, the race has ended, but the show will go on. We'll be back next week for more racing action, and D2 will be on live on our Twitch, twitch.tv/Formula X Racing Wednesday, followed by Division 1 on Thursday, where I'll be trying my best not to kill everyone, and then we'll be back to more Premier X action next Friday at Baku. We'll see you then.